This is a 1984 Fly or Die podcast.
All right, we're here for a very special episode of the 1984 Fly Dot podcast. It's crazy. So this week I wrapped up my 10th episode, posted it, and I was like, yeah, it feels good. I'm sitting here with my notebook on my table, trying to figure out what things to write for next year. But then I get a phone call from a friend from the city of Angels, formerly a Philadelphia resident, Renfield resident. Brother is a Central High graduate. Boom.
ENS.
Oh, ENS.
Yes.
Where I get Central High from?
I don't know.
All right, so ENS.
It makes sense. I have a lot of friends that went to Central.
Yeah, because I'm thinking about like King and Vic. I'm thinking everybody in the same box. So my man,
ENS, yes.
ENS.
Norris.
ENS is engineering and sciences, for y'all who don't know.
I stepped across those crack valves to get to school.
Yes. For those who want to know who is the voice you just heard, that's not my own. It's my main man, Ron.
Greetings. That was my cue? Oh, word.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Ron, a.k.a. RNC. RNC, not to be confused with the Republican National Convention.
Oh, please don't, yes.
It's my man, Rob's brother.
I hate my name every 4 years during the summer. Ronald Neal Clark translates to Republican National Convention, and yes, every 4 years for a week in the summer, I hate my name. Hate my initials.
I would too.
But yeah, yo RNC Snaps.
Yes, yo RNC Snaps is his name.
That Instagram handle.
On Instagram. And one thing I can say about this brother is that he's very well versed in many things related to the culture.
Try.
Like the first guy I met who I thought was like there in that level was my homie Scheme Richards.
Scheme is the oracle, man.
Yeah.
He truly is.
Everything. And I met Ron. I said, what's this Ron cat about? Because I met Ron and we had it was one of those nights we were at the barcade. It was me, you, King, and Scheme, and Tim Monster was there.
Was Tim there?
I think Tim was there.
Because it was another time, it was crazy. It was me, Taib, King, and I think
Scheme was there.
I think RJD2 came out one night. It was I had a couple crazy nights at Barcade.
Yep. We did it twice.
Yes.
Yeah. First time I didn't know you. Second time, yeah, it's Ron.
It was like the Avengers with nerds.
Yep. Playing that game. What game was it called? Was it not Maelstrom? What's the name of that game?
Maelstrom. He said Maelstrom, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
That was a 90s Mac game.
Yeah.
Wow, it was a Mac. What was it? Asteroids knockoff?
Yeah, it wasn't that. What was the game? Oh my goodness. I remember it had like neon lines in it. Yeah, you were on a spaceship. Games with an M.
You lost me. The Sinistar, there's a game.
Was it Gattaca? No, it wasn't Gattaca. It was something close to that. And I was trying to figure out what the hell that was, but it wasn't Gattaca. All right. Well, I could spend an entire hour trying to figure out what game that was, but
yeah, that's a whole nerd tangent right there.
Yeah, super nerd tangent.
And you only got 2 hours on this recorder, so
yeah. Y'all have come close to burning out of.
Thanks for having me, by the way.
No doubt about it.
Shout out to Water Ice for hosting you and giving you an outlet.
Thank you very much, brother.
You're an oracle in your own right, it turns out.
Thank you very much.
We may not see eye to eye on a lot of things, but you know.
Speaking of oracle,
yes,
it's also the name of a diss song created by Mason Betha.
Oh Lord,
towards Cameron. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
One.
Oh my gosh. No.
Yes. But here's the funny part about today is that the homie came through. You know, he offered, brought some libations here of the alcoholic persuasion.
Yep.
And not only did he bring alcohol, and himself, of course, he also brought along cue cards.
Yes, I got 3x5 cards, man.
Yeah, and I'm afraid to know what's on these cards, but information.
Mythbusting.
Oh, here we
There's
go.
a few things I jotted down. See, I meant to transfer these to the illegal pad. But yeah. Dang, I wrote a lot of stuff down. I was mad that day, apparently, at Starbucks on La Brea. I wasn't mad. You don't really get mad in LA. You just get, these little manic tangents, and you start writing stuff down. Very creative atmosphere out there. Boom.
So I think
man.
We'll call this episode Mythbusting.
We call it Mythbusting. I was going to call it 2018 Idiot Rap Argument. I mean, it's just your show. I don't want to hijack your show, but I was just spitballing a few topics. So yeah, idiot. It's not poetic, doesn't flow at all. But idiot rap argument ender. But yeah, hip hop myth busting. What have you?
That's good. It's good ideas here.
A few other ideas came up, but yeah, we're just gonna leave it at that.
Yeah, okay.
Because we spent, I always say when you get to the gates of heaven, you see, was it St. Peter? Is that the?
Yeah, St. Peter, yes.
St. Peter's at the gates of heaven. He gives you a receipt of all the time you waste in your life doing this. Like, like you play Xbox now, they tell you how much time you actually spent playing video games this year.
Yeah.
And I spent something like 10 hours. That's a week and 3 days playing video games. It's a bizarre thing.
Jesus.
So at the end of your life, you get there and you find out all the the terrible things that almost happened to you, the great things that you almost missed out on. And he gives you a readout, and you find out how much time you wasted on your top 5, arguing about your top 5 rappers, top 10 albums of all time. Because everybody gets it wrong. All those albums are somebody else's top 10 albums.
Agreed.
People just kind of just plug into the culture as the go-to phrase now.
Right.
So yeah. 1984, Fly or Die, 2018, Idiot Rap Argument Ending.
Let's do it.
Mythbusting.
And it's perfect for
Anybody die yet?
Rap-wise?
Fly or Die? No, on Fly or Die. Everybody's flown, right? Nobody's died?
Yeah, nobody's died yet. Nobody's died yet.
That might change tonight.
Oh, shit, let's go.
Yo, man, let's go into it. Yes, because we've been, I don't know, man. You were on this Mace thing, and it was like, wow.
Yeah, so let me get into the whole Mace thing, right?
Yeah.
So for me, mind you, I grew up 84.
Yes,
right?
1984 is a big part of it. I wanted to start there.
Right. So a lot of what I was introduced to growing up was the Chinese suit era.
Right.
But mind you, don't get me wrong, I grew up on Kid and Play and like Rakim, Public Enemy.
Sure.
I had all these different people who were there.
All have really long memories, and we.
Right. But then once you get to a certain age where it's like what's popular.
Right.
And amongst all your buddies.
Right.
Like Puff Daddy was that guy. Well, mainly Biggie, but then once Biggie passed, it was Puffy Mania.
That was the tipping point.
It was.
A whole lot building up to that, but now it was in 97, right?
Yeah.
The Puff Daddy and the Family, All or Nothing. What's the name of it?
No Way Out. No Way Out, yeah.
No Way Out coming. That was the tipping point.
Right.
That's when I just saw the whole, just and people talk about this old head young bull, I'm sorry, Philly, argument, like, this is a brand new thing. And we talked about, you started in 1980, you were born in 84?
Right.
1984, I bought my first rap single, Hanging Out, the B-side, Roxanne by UTFO. That's where my whole hip-hop experience started.
Can't go
I've
right
never
now.
been, I DJ'd for a few years, but mostly my whole experience of hip-hop has been at the consumer, which nobody talks about.
Right.
We talk about all the elements and the 4 elements and all types of hip-hop and rapping and DJ. It all is about me.
Yeah.
I'm the hip-hop consumer.
Right.
And a lot of hip-hop that I've consumed, I'm just kind of, I'm not going to be that cat that, I was there. Because I wasn't. I was born in 74. I was 10 years old when I first got my first rap album. So I missed a lot. I missed all the parties at the Wynn. I missed, After Midnight. So everything, I was a consumer. I bought the records. Didn't know anything about DJing. Singles. I always bought singles at Sound the Market. Didn't know they were for DJs. I just thought it was just a record. It's the best way to get the record.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to Lady B. There's a whole lot more underground history to hip hop than Lady B, but that was my conduit to the culture.
Right.
To hip hop. So I consider myself an early adapter. My tastes are just weird. My whole approach to what I like and dislike in hip hop has nothing to do with quality or what's whack or what's great. Hip hop should never be boring to me.
Mm-hmm.
Bad hip hop is boring hip hop.
Right.
So there's a lot of common that I hate. There's a lot of trap that I hate because it just bores me. It's not about the quality of the lyrics or whatever. It's just like, and everybody has nobody's had a really solid catalog really. You know what I mean? It's people have, beats and, some catalogs are better than others. Some careers have been better than others. But I just started in '84 and I hated my first rap record in '86, '87. I have a 30-year haters approach to hip hop. It's like, it's not like I just don't like new music.
Right.
I've been hating certain rap records for 30 years. First rap record I absolutely hated was JJ Fad Supersonic. It was Dr. Dre considered the greatest hip hop in the culture. That's the go-to. That's the cliche. It's almost a cliche. There's a lot of truth to that. It's not necessarily everybody's opinion, but you do your top 10. Everybody has the same top 10 records, and you say you're the best hip hop producer of all time. Everybody's pretty much going to say Dr. Dre. If you do hip hop Family Feud, it's going to be your number one answer. Right. It's like the most popular answer. Not necessarily the best answer, but it's the most popular answer. It's everybody's go-to.
Mm-hmm.
So, 1980, I forget, it was 87, I guess. 86, 87. JJ Fad, and it was a West Coast rap album, and it was very 808 and upbeat record. And at that time, the Bomb Squad had, Bomb Squad and Marley Marl were emerging as the hip hop producers of the moment. You know what I mean? And this weird thing about Dr. Dre, before NWA, his popularity in Philadelphia was amazing on the radio. I was just speaking in terms of Power 99. That was it. It was like a lot more underground stuff going on. But, hip hop wasn't everywhere. So, you had Lady B, and you had Power 99. You had Power 9 at 9 countdown was the main thing. If you're a black youth in Philadelphia in the 80s, hopefully somebody out there has like a list of every Power 9 at 9 countdown list from the 80s, because that was the touchstone. That was the touchstone of that whole era. If you could find those lists, that was the main, I don't know, the Rosetta Stone. That was what you find if you want to know about black youth culture in the 80s. You find that list of 9 songs that were compiled every night. And before NWA, NWA really wasn't that popular in Philly. I mean, it's hard to say, like, that was in high school, and, there were, tastes had kind of emerged. It was still the East Coast and West Coast thing was just emerging. With the Niggas for Life album and Tim Dog, and that was like where that whole thing just kind of like started.
Song by Tim Dog, Fuck Compton.
Yes, Fuck Compton. Tim Dog, out of the Ultramagnetic MCs camp, produced this album, and NWA had blown up with Straight Outta Compton, of course, and then it came out with his sophomore album, Niggas for Life, and they had 100 Miles and Running was the bridge. Because EPs had emerged as well. But yeah, before all of that, World Class Wrecking Crew, Turn Out the Light. When that hit the Power 99 count, that was like number 1 for like months, it seemed.
Really?
Yes. It was an incredibly huge record. Because it's essentially an R&B record, you know what I mean?
Yeah, because I've heard about it. It just amazes me that song traversed from the West over to the East Coast.
Because Philly is at its heart R&B city. You know, Philly International, your WDAS is right there. As far as music, you know, it was turned out to be hip hop's second city for a while, for a minute there. But yeah, it's an R&B, and Turn Out the Light is essentially an R&B song. I think Michelle A. and the World Class Wrecking Crew, you know, it was a update of Float On by the Floaters. I forget, I think that's the artist from the 70s. And you had the Five Brothers, and they came out and they each did the rap, 70s rap, you know, to the girl, and, you know, my name is whatever, this is my zodiac sign, this is what I do to you tonight. So yeah, Turn Out the Light was a song produced by the Wrecking Crew, and, you know, we all know when you do the history of hip hop and the, you know, things that people are embarrassed by, you always have Jay-Z behind the jazz as his sidekick, and you always have Dr. Dre in the sequin suit. So that was that era. Yeah, it was amazing. I think in my mind, as far as Philly's concerned, World Class Wrecking Crew and then JJ Fad, which, you know, is part of history, completely left out of the movie Straight Outta Compton, just for the sake of storytelling. You know what I mean? But that, I think JJ Fad went gold, possibly platinum before, you know, any NWA recording, and that's, you know, where Ruthless got most of his war chest. So yeah, so it was those two records. It might have been a third record that Dre produced, but, you know, one was essentially an R&B record, and one was kind of like I don't know. It was like JJ Fad Supersonic just seemed, it was just whack to me, and a lot of people agreed. So whack record. It was kind of like a step backwards. You know, you get a lot more sample based production, and where the Bomb Squad and Marley Marl were concerned, it was very complex, multi-tracks and all this stuff. And JJ Fad, it was just a whack, you know, it was wacky and it was light with it. And I kind of appreciate it now. But back then it's like, oh my God, this is such a step back to the electro era of hip hop, which, you know, was like 84, 85 through 87, when, you know, hip hop was going through its growing pains.
Egyptian Lover was on it during that era.
Yeah, Egyptian Lover, Johnson Crew, you know, Africa Bambaataa and Soul Sonic Force and so forth. And, you know, thing to remember about hip hop was that it wasn't everywhere. And, you know, it just seems that for me, the more popular it gets, and that's for any culture, more popular it gets, the more bottom line you get to it, the more common denominator you find in it. Found in it, you know, it's not as great. The more popular it gets, the worse it gets, as far as I'm concerned. And I'm a late adapter, you know. It's like it was 5 years of rap records before that UTFO album I bought. You understand? And just kind of like, I consider myself an early adapter, and then it was like, that's only recorded hip hop. That was 5 years before that, 1979 from 1973, with the original party that Coke La Rock and Kool Herc threw. There's about 7 years of entire culture that exists only in faded tapes and party flyers. You know what I mean? All marvelously curated up at was it Stanford University? Who has the Rich Medina's going to kill me for this because he's
I think it might be Stanford. Isn't that's where Bambaataa has his record collection at?
I'm thinking Stanford. Stanford's in California.
Harvard?
Gosh, he's going to kill me. I swear to gosh. You can look it up. We do live Googling on
yeah, we do live Googling now.
Fly or Die.
Yeah, because you have to get the information correct. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you got to get it right. Heck, I meant to have the iPad.
Was it Cornell?
Cornell University has the archive.
Didn't have to Google that. Popped in my head right there on the spot. Boom. Cornell, yeah.
Cornell, Stanford. You know, not talking about academia. We're talking about rap music.
No doubt.
It's your top 5 Ivy League colleges, Mike.
My top 5?
Yeah. Off the top of your head.
Yale, Harvard, UPenn. I gotta go with that one. Other two, Monmouth. No, that's not one. I don't know.
Wow.
I was gonna name 3 out there.
Wow, man.
Stanford?
You figured it out after your Rakim, man. Wow, that's crazy.
Dude, crap. Villanova isn't one. It's not.
It should be, man.
It should
Villanova
be.
is the best school in the area as far as I didn't go. My aunt went, so I just love the main line so much. And I'm proud of you, man.
Thank you, bro.
Villanova, Mike Bayon, ladies and gentlemen, Villanova Alameda.
Yeah.
Almost wore my Kerry Kittles jersey tonight, man. Should have done it.
Dude.
It's cold out.
Yeah, it is. It's brick outside. Hella brick.
Okay, that's a tangent. So where were we?
And by the way, the game I was thinking of from earlier
Yeah.
is Tempest.
Oh, of course, yeah.
That's what that was, yeah.
Shout out to Ursula Rucker. She's a master, master
I heard that.
Yeah.
I heard she was vicious
It's
at
true.
that game.
She's the truth. Poetry and Tempest and mothering. She's an incredible human being.
Yes, she is.
Yeah. So, where were we?
All right, let's go back.
Talking about haters. That'll be a good alternate topic tonight. The haters' history of hip hop. But go ahead.
Look, because before we get into, it was mentioning like the Coca-Cola Rock and that time span was just being on faded pictures, faded tapes and flyers.
Yep.
I consider myself as a hater, but I'm a hater with good reason.
Mm-hmm.
Because for me, where I come from and things I've experienced in life, especially in terms of the culture and music, it's like I know what's good, I know what's not good.
Right.
And it's that people...
Of course, everything's objective, but come on.
Yeah, you know. So now things are weird for me now because the bar's been lowered so damn far that people are thinking that...
Well, ain't no bar.
It's not a bar anymore?
Russell sold the bar in 2000.
Oh, when he sold Def Jam.
Yeah, he just sold the bar. Yeah, he sold. Yeah, so the bar was sold. We sold out, man.
Damn.
That's why rap is the most popular genre now. I thought it was years ago that it kind of crossed over and beat out rock and country, but apparently this year, according to Billboard, yeah. But yeah.
Jesus. Never thought of it like that. That's when the bar got sold, when Def Jam got sold off like that.
Yeah, I don't blame Russell, but I kind of blame Russell. I might be wrong. I mean, it's a collective thing. I mean, it's people come, and everything happened honestly. There wasn't an Illuminati cabal, and there was no meeting. And forget that meme that you see online about the meeting, and we're going to poison and
black music.
This whole line of thought that everything is planned and thought out, and we're being programmed. No, think people come by things naturally. Yeah. We all want to skew toward hedonism. We all want to talk about and invest in things that make us feel good over than more in the intellectual pursuits.
Right.
It's just part of being a human being, part of being an American. So I don't really blame anybody, but I just don't invest in it anymore, man. I don't invest in trap, and some of it is good. I like trap, but I think people is just a money grab, a lot of it. Because there are some incredible trap albums coming out for 10 seconds. Beautiful ambient loops worthy of like 4AD records in the 80s. Beautiful ambient loops worthy of the Cocteau Twins or My Bloody Valentine or any of those alternative groups. Then the 808 comes in and just kills it for me. Yeah. That's the thing I love about streaming is that you just have access to everything. You know what I mean? You can be a hater or you can be a critic. And I really hate the term haters because, we'll get to that with Diddy in 97, the tipping point.
Oh, yeah.
Do you want to do a timeline or we're just going to skip around to Doctor Who?
It's Doctor Who it. Because one thing you mentioned about 97, right?
Right.
In terms of why I feel like that era was special for me is because I don't know, it was just the energy and the vibe that I got from like Diddy records and Mace records, because it felt like it was easy to get into versus like me in 93 trying to get into Wu-Tang back then. I wasn't a Wu-Tang like head until like I got older where I could understand.
Right.
But you got in 93 when you have Midnight Marauders coming out and you got 36 Chambers coming out, I'm going towards like Midnight Marauders because it was easier for me to understand.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And it was like, in a way, like less threatening. Because if you like 9 years old, you know, you come up how I came up, I can only go towards Tribe.
Right.
I couldn't do Wu because I mean I didn't understand any of that street shit like that.
Right.
Same when Biggie's album came out a year later, it was like, okay, cool, like these guys are dope, but they're solely dope because of what I heard on the radio.
Right.
It took me once I got older.
So we got programmed. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
In that respect, we do get programmed.
Yeah.
I read a lot of music books. And one common theme I found in every music book I found is that nothing, you know, we get this idea, there's a myth that, you know, just somebody has $1 in a dream and they record this demo and they shop it to a record, you know, shop it to a radio station plays it, word of mouth spreads around, people love it, yada, yada, and they become a superstar. And the truth is a whole industry behind you getting to hear that record. There's back in the days, there were legions of what they call record people, and they would work a record for a region of the company and make sure that the record got played and, you know, ship the promos out. And in the days of, you know, payola being it's a corrupt system where record companies would pay DJs cash. They would send you, you know, a 12-inch, a white label record with, you know, $500 tucked in the cover, and you play this record, you know, hourly. You play this record, you know, gets this record into the rotation. If you're a program director, highly illegal, FCC, you know, disapproves of it. The father of rock and roll was ruined because of it. The Philly father of rock and roll, Dick Clark, he kind of presented himself as a Boy Scout about it, though he too took advantage of the system. Yeah, look up Alan Freed, man.
Now, didn't that same thing happen for one of New York's pioneering DJs, Frankie Crocker?
Frankie Crocker, yes. Frankie Crocker indeed was also involved in payola.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting cat, Frankie Crocker, man.
He came into like Steel 54 on a white horse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There's like all kind of Frankie Crocker stories. But yeah, so my whole thing about rap, about hip hop, is just it's the most exploited genre of music as far as I'm concerned. Most exploited culture, and just the levels of exploitation will never fully unwrap and understand it.
I agree.
There's just like so much of it, and it's never been like young versus old, never been old head versus young ball, never been pop versus hip hop. It's always been music lovers and people that wear hip hop as drag. Right. And I think it's always been my impression that people's love of hip hop is drag first before love of music. Like music is second. Not even a distant second. It's just a second aspect that people appreciate most about hip hop. First of all, it's how down it makes you look. The street cred, I think. Everybody just picks up on it. Everybody can name check Pac and Biggie. You can get the T-shirt at Target. You can get the T-shirt at Urban Outfitters. That's the way in. And
to me, that's crazy. You mentioned Urban Outfitters, because there's been many times I go inside the store, getting hats and jackets or whatever, and I see the rap T-shirts, and I'll see. So you know how there were certain T-shirts that were very popular at in Compton swap meets.
Yeah.
In terms of how the certain designs were.
Right.
Well, they've been absconded now, been used and sold for like triple the price probably in Urban Outfitters.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen like the Tupac ones and like a Selena one and all different things. But I'm like, listen, when these artists were popular, you didn't have these shirts. Right. It took you until 2012, 2013, 2014 to have these shirts. And it's like you're jacking the image now because of the certain nostalgia that the youth culture is experiencing now.
Right.
But the nostalgia isn't, and not to be judgmental, but the nostalgia is bullshit in my opinion, because you're just buying into the photos, the looks of these artists rather than actually understanding the music.
Right.
It's like kind of like me going to a
Right.
store and going to buy a Nirvana shirt and not knowing a damn song they've made.
Alternative drag. Grunge drag.
Yep.
Hot Topic. It's punk drag. It's in the mall. 30 years ago, you had to drive, or you had to borrow your dad's car, or you had to get your parents to drive you to South Street to Zipperhead to dress like that. And just like everything, it's a huge thing that happened in the 90s, man. They built this cultural ghetto around a lot of people. They built a punk ghetto around the suburban kids that wanted to do that. And I don't know, it's a weird thing. I grew up in America. I didn't grow up in Black America. You know what I mean? It's not like I grew up in a black neighborhood. I have black neighbors. But culturally, I grew up in America. It's not like we watched Good Times and the Jeffersons and What's Happening. And, you know, that's 90 minutes out of the week. You know what I mean? We watched Family Ties, West of Brady Bunch. We got the whole nine. Mm-hmm. But in the 90s, you had these, you know, we'd stopped being a race, became a demographic. Then the infrastructure of television changed, infrastructure of radio changed. So you have cable, you have basic cable, you have more channels. You have the three channels and 3 majors and the 3 local UHF channels and the 1, you know, PBS channel. You had 150, 200 channels. So you had a black channel. Mm-hmm. And you became a demographic. And so they built programming for you. And then, you know, you could watch BET all day if you wanted to. I'll flip you around, watch Nick at Night, I watch MTV, I watch A&E. Mm-hmm. But, you know, just kind of built this we're built into this demographic ghetto in the 90s. And really narrowed, you know, our influences, I think. And that's what was so energizing about 80s and 90s, a lot of the 80s and 90s hip-hop, especially from New York artists. Because New York is, you know, the cultural capital of the West. It's an American city, but it's not an American city. You know, it's technically an American city, but it's its own island off, you know, and there's nothing like it anywhere else in the rest of the country. So these kids in, you know, New York, you just open to so many things, open to so many different types of music. So Bambaataa and Grandmaster Flash all were open to whatever music came to Downstairs Records, whatever record stores they went to in New York City. Salsa, Euro, you know, Kraftwerk Records, disco, you know, everything came through New York, so you had access to everything. You know what I mean? And it wasn't like they knew what a rap record was. You know, Rapper's Delight wasn't a rap record. Rapper's Delight wasn't their first record. It was a novelty disco record at the time. You know what I mean? Possibly the biggest selling 12-inch in the history of records. We'll never know because Sugar Hill Records was corrupt. They printed like a lot of copies off the books. Mm-hmm. And that record went global. You know what I mean? But yeah, it was like the first. It was at the time it was just another disco record, and disco was huge even after the you know, Disco Sucks movement in Chicago and the White Sox game and all that.
Yeah, I thought it was fucking whack. It was corny because I watched a documentary on disco, and people said that a lot of it came from either racism and homophobia, because they were saying that like it because of what it attracted.
Right.
And you saw who was there, you know, in that White Sox game. Mm-hmm. All the faces, like, we want rock music. Yeah. So, just seeing how all that went down, but disco, to me, it wasn't a trash genre of music. Because you had, you know, besides the Donna Summer, you had, the thing of the Italian musician and producer who was...
Giorgio Moroder.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And all the work that he's done. I'm like... If not for disco, you would not have had some of the advances you had in R&B, even in rap in the 80s.
Right.
You know, so it's always interesting to me, like, how discos seem to go down a fiery rabbit hole.
Well, that's another interesting thing, because I always look at the context of it. And in contrast to all those white faces at Comiskey Park, I think it was Comiskey Park in Chicago at that White Sox game, we were talking about the bringing disco. There was a event, to bring people to ballparks in the 70s. They had these wild promo nights. So one promo night was bring disco records to the Chicago White Sox game, and we're going to blow them up at the seventh inning stretch or after the game or something. So everybody bought, there was a pile of hundreds of records in the middle of the park. They blew up the records with like dynamite or something. Then everybody was loaded, and it caused a small riot at the park, and they tore up the park basically. Mm-hmm. So in contrast to those white faces, mostly white faces at Comiskey Park that night, you have George Clinton, who likened disco music to making love with the same stroke for years. And he did have a point. That, that 2-1-2 beat is 4-4 beat, but it's, everything was, it was just a lot of the same stuff was coming out. So there was good disco and there was bad disco, and it's weird, like the best disco came at the end of it with Nile Rodgers and Chic, the Chic movement, as far as I'm concerned, and his Diana Ross records and the Sister Sledge, and he's just still is like probably the most influential producer in the disco era, and through the 80s, he was the architect of the 80s as well, which nobody really points out.
Madonna's albums.
Madonna, she produced Grace Jones, David Bowie. Mm-hmm. He took a lot of 70s artists and just reinvented them for the 80s. And you saw, Madonna is not particularly talented, but she was a hard worker. He saw that in her. Mm-hmm. And, like a version took like a month for her to get the vocals down, and rest is history. And the rest is Nile Rodgers. So,
right.
But yeah, so... And that's the thing about when I see disco, I see trap. Because the same swing beat for disco, I see it, in the 808 and trap. And like I said, it's great music. Trap is great for 4 bars. And then the beat kicks in and just kills it for me. Then the rap cadence falls in and it kills it for me. But that's not the artist's fault, because they make the records based on other rap records. Rap records up to 97, from 1980 to 1997, it was like, well, you're making rap records that sound like this. Why can't they sound like this? I don't want my records to sound anything like that. We went through the same thing in the 80s with the Ultimate Breaks and Beats albums. Everybody had the Ultimate Breaks and Beats vinyl collection. They were sampling from that. So the same samples were showing up. Funky Drummer shows up on like 120 rap records from 1987 to 1992, and we eventually got tired of it. And then Diamond D and Pete Rock and Premier in 91, 92 came, and Large Professor is a big part of that too. Well, let's go to these record shows. Let's really start digging, and toss out Ultimate Breaks and Beats. Those are all dead. We're going to do our own thing. So, a whole lot of things are going on that contribute to the harmonize. This beer is kicking.
It's a sour monkey beer, my man got
sameness of hip hop. First of all, it's like how it's made, right? So in the 80s, 90s, everybody had their own lab. Everything was done analog. Mm-hmm. So Marley Marl studio wasn't the same as 45 King studio, wasn't the same as Herbie Love Bug's studio. Hitman, Howie T, everybody had their own lab. They had their own approach. They had their own mechanics. And now you have, Pro Tools and Live and Logic. And it's, it's kind of like the same thing. You just kind of like plug in, and it's all about your inspiration. And most of the music is going to come from your inspiration, and a lot of inspiration comes from what's hot now. You just want to plug in, and there's nothing wrong with trying to make music. So we really got to be more understanding about what you're criticizing. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's just not for me. Trap's not for me. And the other argument is, well, you like trap. You had Miami bass. You like that? Yeah, we had Miami bass. We had a whole lot of different genres. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So a Miami record didn't sound like a Seattle record. Luke Skywalker didn't sound like Sir Mix-a-Lot. He didn't sound like E40 and Master P in the Bay Area. Before P went to New Orleans, which didn't sound like, Steady B and Cool C, which didn't sound like, and then New York was its own planet. So you had neighbors that didn't sound like each other up there, you know what I mean? And before Dilla, like, oh man, Michigan records were awful, by the way. Like, Midwest records were weird.
MC Bree, it was before.
Bree was huge. Yeah, Bree was amazing, but he made Westerns.
Yeah.
Everything was pretty much skewed. That much was true. It's a weird thing about the Mississippi River, like east of the Mississippi was East Coast rap. Down as far as Atlanta, then, things kind of skewed Miami bass and bass music. But, west of the Mississippi is all gangster rap, starting in the 90s. But, again, different approaches to it, you know what I mean? And so you really can't fault people for, everything happens naturally, I'm saying. It's like nothing's really programmed. You're always going to skew toward hedonism, you know what I mean? But, yeah, man, that's what excited me about things. That's what excited me about hip-hop. I had no claims toward, street cred. Grew up middle class in Winfield, part of Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's a middle class neighborhood, solidly. And, I was always wary about putting on that drag. You know what I mean? Never wore my hat backwards. Never replaced a Z with an S for Z, and spelling stuff. You know what I mean? I was just really, pretty much a homebody. So it really came down to me and those records. I had a Panasonic stereo. It's perfect for making pause tapes. Turntable was wired directly to the cassette, and it was to make my tapes and put them on my Walkman and go back and forth to school. And then after school on Fridays, I'd make my way to Sound of Market. Sometimes Funko Marts and later Armand's. And, it was just all strictly music. Just a love of music more than anything. I had no claim to street cred or nothing like that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Didn't, because I might have been the cultural vulture. I don't know. In the eyes of people like Scheme and, the people that he ran with back in the 80s that, were actually, doing these after school jams and jams at the Wynn and Winfield and all these music hall jams and stuff. So, old school heads, everybody had to deal with it, Everybody had to deal with old heads. I listen to Questlove Supreme a lot. And running theme there, everybody talks about the Latin Quarter. The Melly Mel, who is the biggest rapper of his day with Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. And Melly Mel would actually go up to the DJ booth and manually skip the record that he didn't like. He would take it off. Somebody played a record he didn't like, he'd take it off. He was the hater of all haters. But he was the critic. I mean, he was... he might have not had the vision then. Who knows? But he knew what his rap music sounded like, and this wasn't that, and he wasn't ready for it. And he's his Public Enemy, most famously. But and apparently they had a bad show, so that made them better. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It's a very weird, complicated thing, and nobody really unravels it. And I think the argument is really broken down. Is really incredibly simplified.
Coming up, I was similar to you,
Mm-hmm.
rather like I never claimed street cred, but if I did wear my hat backwards, it's because I saw rappers doing it.
Right.
It was popular culture. We all had our hats backwards,
Yeah.
but I never had like a strong connect to the street shit until I got older. And all my peers were on it, so I got into it. But I can tell you right now, '98 when DMX came out with "Flesh My Flesh, Blood of My Blood," or however order that it is.
Yeah.
The album cover, I was like, "Oh, there's some extra shit here, man."
With the bloody album cover.
Yeah, and people were like, "Yeah, it's DMX." I'm like, it's just man, B.
Didn't like the aesthetic.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm ninth grade. I'm gonna go home and play some Pokemon instead, B. I'm not gonna do this, man. You know,
it's
kind
of dark, but I liked it. At the time, and it's weird. My approach to music is I wait for the hype to die down, and then I listen to see if there's.
That's how I am now.
And as a result, I'm a huge DMX fan. At the time, like everybody listening to it, and everybody listens to party, but I listen to like album cuts. I'm a huge album cuts head, like. And there's just a lot of people, what people call, the thing that kills me, I don't know, there's so many just aspects about hip hop I don't like. I don't like that what just kind of kills me for me beyond trap or beyond just the whole people that all about the culture. And oh man, I live and breathe hip hop and I do this for my mom, my dad, my kids, and put it down like, are you gonna rap? Okay, go ahead with that rap then. Make a record.
Right.
Stop making moves. Make a record. When Dame Dash signed everybody, remember when Dame Dash signed everybody that didn't have a contract?
Dude, we signed Nori. He has signed Joe Budden. He has signed ODB. He has signed MOP. He has signed who else did he have with him?
Making moves, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he put them all in the sequel to
State Property too. Yeah.
Yeah, what do those records sound like though? It would never know records.
It was like
it might have been a single,
a mixtape cut here or there,
yes.
But there was no like, there was nothing. And 50 did the same exact thing with G Unit when he signed Mobb Deep with that. It was a Mobb Deep album, but there wasn't. He had MOP, but there wasn't an MOP album out. And he also signed Mace, but Diddy kind of cut that deal short.
Yeah,
but for the most part,
yeah.
In terms of like people having these. Sign all this from people to the label.
Making moves, and that was the main indicator that it wasn't about music. It was about the image. It was about the jewelry. It was about the making moves. It was about making everything else but rap. And at the same time, as that he wasn't making records, who was making records? Lil Wayne was making records. Lil Wayne's probably the most maligned, hated rapper in the history, even more than Vanilla Ice in some aspects. People just bring up like hip hop fans, oh, he's trash. Yeah, but he's making records. He making a lot of records. He was so prolific then. It was ridiculous.
In 2007, he was going by Lil Wayne, aka featuring Lil Wayne.
Yeah, and it was crazy. Like and I was on that path. I just like, okay, I don't really see the value in his music, but he's making music. He's not about making movies. It was insane. So I kind of championed him in that aspect. You know what I mean?
He worked.
And people just like that about rap. Like I might be marginally talented, but I'll make this work. Which again is not about music, it's about drive, and people like that drive and stuff. And it's a big reason I'm not a big Kanye fan. I'm a great Kanye fan, production fan. Oh my goodness. Those are the greatest instrumentals, some of the greatest instrumentals that he ruined for me. You know what I mean? The forced delivery, and he was self-conscious, and he addressed it.
Right.
The forced delivery and everything, and when incredible book I read, I think it's called Kanye West Owes Me $300, and it's about a whole side of hip hop that I didn't even know about. This whole white artist from California, he came out. I think it's from California, and he came to New York.
What's his name?
I can't remember, but you gotta look up the book. You can do the Google thing.
Was it Hot Carl?
Hot Carl, yes. Hot Carl put out the book.
Yeah, Hot Carl does. Yeah.
Book by Hot Carl. I think it's $300. Is Kanye West owes me $300, which turns out to be for a cab ride to Jersey. Cause Kanye was hunkered down in the studio. He was making beats for other people, and he was stockpiling his best beats for himself. And there's mention in the book about a meeting, and he told everybody he's going to be the biggest rapper. And nobody believed him because he was that forced delivery. And he was off, and it was just this whole thing was, just kind of weird. I think Kanye's kind of might be on the spectrum myself. So I've been to a degree just kind of I was really hard on it at some point, but just come to understanding like people have their own pathologies, and it's just we're just not used to it. You know what I mean? So when he came out, I'm just like, okay, well, Ron Fest, why don't you just ghostwrite for Ron? He's a great lyricist too. His wordplay and stuff he brings up is amazing, and it's just the delivery just kills it. The performance, the actual performance, just kind of kills it for me. And that goes back to 20 years, to 97. And first time I heard Mace. And I told you about the first time I heard Mace. I thought Lil C's had something happened to Lil C's. I thought it was Lil C's rapping and something happened. And I was like, well, why is he rapping like that? Why does he talk like that? Why is he mumbling? Then I understand about, Killer Cam and Murder Mace. And there was an incredible uptown duo making incredible records like, Big L records. And I was like, well, what happened? Why is he, where's the energy at? This is 20 years ago. It's like, was the big record with Puffy?
Can't Nobody Hold Me Down?
Yeah, when that came out, when that dropped, I was like, and that is crazy. Thing about you remember where you are when you hear certain records.
Definitely did.
And the way streaming things are is just kind of like another file that comes down the path that comes up on your computer.
Mm-hmm.
But back then, man, this is the radio. And I remember I was at the Mall of America in Minnesota, and we were like about to drive home, and it came on the radio, and I'm like, this is okay, but I don't like the energy of the rapper. Mm-hmm. I don't think they're going to go anywhere. Lo and behold, it's like one of the biggest rap albums in history. So,
it's amazing because you and I are only 10 years apart,
mm-hmm.
right? And again, there's some that can be light years.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like me and you have similar tastes, but we just have certain small differences. You know what I'm saying? In terms,
the experience is different. You just
right.
came up in a different time, and it wasn't as good as my time.
This is funny because I would say it because your era, there's a lot more of your era that's heralded
mm-hmm.
than was heralded in mine. Of course, but my era, I mean, well, when I was a teen, I had like the Nas, Jay-Z beef, like that era,
right.
era of Nas. I had the Jay-Z. I had like
mm-hmm.
when New York started to lose its grip and the South started to rise again.
Yeah,
I had these different moments, but people always go back to like, yo, the early '90s had everything. So
the early '90s is it all started falling apart. Then what I mean. Everything was skewed toward gangster rap when gangster rose. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So Questlove has like this 7-year theory about hip hop where things change drastically over like the 7-year itch.
Mm-hmm.
Things change drastically every 7 years as far as recorded hip hop. And the first, like I said, those first 7 years are mostly unrecorded. So 1973, the South Bronx movement, and up to Sugar Hill Gang, Rapper's Delight, and King Tim by Fatback Band, which came out a week and a half later, I think. So Fatback Band was a funk group, and they just produced a rap record. It was another funk record, but it was considered now the first rap record. So that was 1980 to 1987, which was the Larry Smith era, I think. Larry Smith was a producer for Run DMC.
He recently passed away like a year or two ago, right?
4 years ago, yeah. He's considered the master architect of hip hop. So records just kind of like sounded like that, and like I said, everything is things are designed. Some things happen naturally. Everything is designed. Russell Simmons himself made big changes in rap. Early rap was the first stylist. Hip hop stylist was Rick James. This is why everybody had the weird, bizarre. You talk about hip hop fashion
right.
today and talk about the old school. You talk about the real old school, like early 80s. So Rick James had this punk funk approach to fashion and music. He liked punk music. He liked the punk aesthetic as far as how they dress, punk rockers dress and everything. But of course, punk rockers couldn't play. And he was a Motown artist, so he was a punk artist who could really throw down the funk and everything. And so first national tour featuring a rap act, it was Grandmaster Flash and the Furious 5 opening for Rick James.
Now, before you continue, is that where that notorious photo started?
Which one?
So there's a photo of like Grandmaster Flash and the Furious 5 all dressed like wrestlers.
Kinda,
much.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, pretty much. You know, they had like a lot of spandex, a lot of go-go boots, and yeah, like that. So, you know, it was Rick James' contribution. Run DMC was coming up. Look at the first Run DMC photo. They're wearing these ill double knit polyester plaid pants and turtlenecks and stuff and jackets and stuff. So Russell wanted a more street-oriented look for them. So Gone wore those suits, and then you have the Lee jeans and the Adidas and the leather jackets and Stetson hats.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very deliberate thing just to change things from the spacesuits and everything and make it more urban, make it more macho. And same thing with the music. You know, Larry Smith, nothing was just before sampling and everything. And just created that hard, loud, big, loud hip-hop sound that was kind of known for years. So yeah, Larry Smith, and then of course Rick Rubin up to 87, then 80. So the next 7-year stage in that was starting in 87 was Marley Marl. And for me, everything, the whole culture as far as recorded music is concerned revolves around Marley Marl. He got it down. He made hip hop more structured toward pop. You know, he had bridges, he had choruses, verses, and intros and everything. And another thing, you know, Questlove interviewed him and he hated rap records. He was a big dance record engineer in New York. He's the go-to man, and I went digging a few years ago in New York, and I was finding all these dance records that had his name on it.
He did a joint, the Akeem joint, right? Was it?
Yeah, Akeem Brothers.
Yeah,
It's itself, and yeah,
because he was Marley Marl was working under Mr. Magic at the time, right? Yeah, Mr. Magic wasn't really a rap fan like that either, was he?
No, in fact, you know, No More Music About the Suckers. I think that's him on the Public Enemy record.
Okay.
And he wasn't a fan of BDP, but once the story is told, BDP's first records were really bad.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to them, Google them before, you know, Criminal Minded. The P is Free is probably the first really good record. Everything before that is just really questionable. They had the heart, but it just weren't organized, and those records are really bad. And I think that's what they played for Mr. Magic. So yeah, everything revolves around Marley, and is still incredibly ahead of his time. The way he had everything engineered. You know, he was just had things like triggered, like nobody knows how to do it now. He tried to recreate it for Akai. They re-released the MPC. And they had him recreate a couple beats that he did back in the 80s on the MPC. So he had the technology there, but just the feeling wasn't there. And that was like a big revelation to me about how he made, about, you know, those home studios, those labs, how those labs were set up back in the day. And it was, but yeah, it's just like, so as far as I'm concerned, ever since Marley Marl, everybody's been trying to make Marley Marl records. When they try to make rap records up to a certain point, then I think everybody's trying to make a Mike Will record. To me, I think Mike Will currently is like the most people trying to capture his sound. You know what I mean?
Mm.
But yeah, it was like Marley for just years. It's the way he structured his records, the way he produced the records. Even now, they're still my favorite records because there's nothing like them.
Because he did the this is an underground, not this is underground. There was an underground joint, right? Chief Rocker.
Oh, Lords of the Underground.
Yeah.
Ask Scheme Richards about that. He knows the scoop.
I heard like Marley Marl did one of the joints for that group.
He had a second sound. Marley did. He had like his Juice Crew, Cold Chillin' sound.
Mm.
Then he kind of remerged in the early '90s with Mama Said Knock You Out. He produced most of that record.
And Control Volume 2 compilation.
Yeah, that's before that. That was his older sound, and then the Chief Rocka. Produced a lot of records. We'll say executive produced them in the '90s, but again, ask him about that because he dropped the jewel on me about that thing. Yeah.
All right, bet. So now mentioning Marley Marl now, also in that era of '87 going on, you had like the rising of Teddy Riley, and Teddy Riley is credited for like New Jack Swing.
Yes.
But I feel like though he's credited for it, Marley Marl had great New Jack Swing remixes during that time period.
Yeah, incredible remixes. Yeah,
incredible. Like joints for BBD, Heavy D, L Cool J, and some of those songs I like better than what I was hearing from Teddy at the time.
Well, Marley's just an incredible producer. He's just credited for hip hop, but like I said, he had a history in dance music, and he ushered in the so-called golden era. I mean, he produced the three best, who are considered the three best hip MCs of that time and maybe all time. Rakim, Big Daddy Kane, and Cool G Rap.
He did my melody for Rakim, right?
Yeah, and again, people are debating that now. That what his input it was to Eric B. and Rakim's albums.
Okay.
Because they really don't sound like anything else that Marley kind of did. So. I don't know. We're gonna find. There's a lot of infighting and everything. So a good source to me was this book called The Big Payback by Dan Charnas.
Okay.
And best rap book I heard because everybody has their take on it and everybody's debating like, oh, well, you weren't there and this is how it went down. No, you're wrong. This is how it went down. So a lot of infighting, a lot of fuzzy memories. Dan Charnas, he started at the beginning and followed the money. Mm-hmm. So the book is like the span from the South Bronx movement all the way up to 50 Cent signing that vitamin water deal.
Okay, around 0304.
Chris Lighty, and of course so much has happened since then. It's the whole thing about hip hop is it's constantly transforming. And, every book you have is relevant up to a point and it's going to be missing stuff.
Right.
I have a huge library, and it's like, this is good up until like 2003, maybe. A lot of revisions that are never going to happen in those in my rap library, man.
Because that's from 03 until now, 14 years. A lot has definitely happened. Different sounds, different artists have emerged. Different way the industry has definitely changed. You're going from them trying to hang on to physical copies and the death of mom and pop record stores to Best Buy popping up, and then those stores being shot down because digital started to rise.
Yep.
And now
terrible thing, man. Napster rose just as we started making money. Everybody was losing money in rap music, and then until 2000 it really started popping for people. And bam, Napster just came in and just people still making money, but not as much money as they could have been making.
I remember Dr. Dre said, "Hey, Napsters keep me from feeding my kids."
You're right.
I remember that statement.
So then that's where it stops being about the music and starts selling that image and starts selling headphones and you know what I mean, and the whole image about being a rapper. So maybe that's the key there, that you no longer the music will only get you so far. You gotta a lot of it has to be sold from that image.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Because a lot of artists now are saying, oh, yeah, we're getting our money from doing touring now, merch, other appearances.
Yeah.
Not for music anymore.
I don't know. The thing about live rap music is almost sucks as a rule to me now. And it's got to be a point. I was going out a lot and got back to Philly. I left college in '98, got back to Philly. Started going to, shows at the Troc and whatever, at Transit and so forth. And it's just like, okay, you have, 5 acts maybe in the night, and they come out and they do, half hour, and could not figure out why the set changes in between shows, because there was no set changes. It was like maybe the DJ wanted his setup different. Maybe he wanted a battle style or, traditional style. Maybe he wanted his fader on the right. Whatever. Why is it taking 45 minutes, half hour, 35 minutes to change between shows? Then I realized, and then I'm watching the performances, and there's only so much you can do, man. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And starting with Rakim, one of the most adored, probably considered by many the best to ever do it, but best to ever do it on record. Because he did live shows, but he wasn't battle tested like the generations of MCs that came before him. He came in, he wasn't even supposed to make that record with Eric B. He was supposed to be Freddie Fox, and everybody knows that story, and Freddie Fox couldn't make the session. Rakim stepped in and did his thing, and the rest is history. But, that was the first time we heard him was on wax. Mm-hmm. Whereas, most MCs had to hit the stage at the LQ, at the Fever, at all these venues back in the 80s. Kind of apply their trade there. So it was always a stage thing first before the record. Conversely, you could be great on stage and be terrible on record, like Kumo D. He had a couple good records. He has a couple good barbecue records, good cookout records, good memories there, Wild Wild West. And, his first record, was kind of like...
How You Like Me Now. Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool, but it was dated almost instantly when it came out, especially compared to his biggest rival, LL. But at the time when he was on a stage in New York, in the Bronx, at those parties uptown in Harlem and everything, those tapes are amazing. Kool D I think he was considered the top of his game in his day. Just didn't translate the record. So yeah, recorded hip hop is a really weird thing, man. There's so many records that never get played. It's a whole history that was never told. You know what I mean? And I don't know. It's just like,
because now that's the norm for artists.
Yeah,
they're recording first, and then testing their feet out on stage.
Why not? You can do it in your bedroom,
right? So a lot of people now, I'm like, man, the album, like the music is dope, but their performance kind of stinks. It takes some time to get it. Because Hov was the same way from what I was hearing. Like Jay-Z's stage performance wasn't good until
sure.
A while.
Yeah, can't speak to it. I haven't seen any old performances or everything, but it's. I stopped going out as a result. That's the bottom line of that story. Is I stopped going, even to performers I really like. Best rap shows I've been to. Of course, the Roots, but it's a hip hop band, and they're in their own lane, basically,
right.
And it's all about the stage and all about playing live and everything. So I've never been to a bad Roots show, and I've been to a lot of Roots shows. It's probably the group I've seen more than any other group. Second that being De La Soul, who struggled on stage at first, but then got it together, and I think they're the best. They were for a while the best I've seen. Third would be Ice Cube.
Really?
So Ice Cube at the TLA, his energy, he's performing records from 20 years ago. Like, he was still 20, that same age. From like 1990 record, from America's Most Wanted. He'll hit the stage, he'll tear the stage up.
Damn.
He's incredible. WC is kind of like his hype man. Mm-hmm. WC would do his own records. He's incredible. Light crowd at the TLA, really weird night, the War and Peace tour. So it was just Cube and WC on stage with the DJ. I forget his DJ form at the time. 2-story high Napoleon bust of Ice Cube. and in the back of the venue was like Busta Rhymes and some of the Flip Mode Squad just taking it all in. Mm-hmm. Half the floor is empty and a bunch of us in the front of it, and Cube just came out and just the most exhilarating, one of the most exhilarating performances I've ever seen. Gangstar always a great show. The worst show I've seen in Philly was Capone and Noriega.
Really?
It came out at 1 a.m.
I heard about this, yo. I might not have been from you, but I heard like yo they had a concert in Philly.
Maybe it was the venue's closed at 2. They came out maybe 1, being generous. It was definitely after 1 o'clock they came out. And Nori did his thing, but it was just the energy was like, "Damn, we waited this long for this. It's terrible." And just kind of I don't know. They're good MCs and they're good shows, but for the most part, I'm just like I just don't have the patience anymore. Man. It just kind of kills it for me. So it's all the experience has always been radio and records, and not even CDs. I still after 30 years of buying rap records, albums, I still argue that it's a single-based genre. It just it's not really album-oriented. They try to make albums out of it. Even all your classic best albums there's just duds. There are very few front-to-back classic.
One of the few albums have aged over time that I haven't had any debates over. Mm-hmm. It's Redman's Muddy Waters.
Money, what everybody loves her. Yeah, back to front, just no duds.
Because
probably my favorite catalog of any rapper.
Redman.
Yeah.
I'm
like
a fan
people
of all the stuff.
love. There Is a Dark Side. That's his weakest album to me.
Yeah.
But otherwise, just a solid career, and got kind of sketchy toward the end. I think there was more Def Jam's mishandling of his career.
The Red Gone Wild album, yeah. It definitely
Red Gone Wild was cool. He had an album called Reggie, and I just walked into Target one day, and it's just kind of just on the shelf, and I hadn't heard anything about it. I'm like, well, what's going on?
I saw like one music video from that. That was like during a time when like music videos really getting played on Smash and on like that. Yeah. But yeah, there was nothing. But that was like Def Jam's way of being like, okay, shoo, older rapper.
Right.
We would save our money for the younger cats. And the younger acts they had on Def Jam, they did nothing with them.
Right.
So it was like, you might as well just get that money over to Redman because he's going to make it work.
Right.
But that was just the transition for Def Jam as a label because, my goodness.
Yeah. Even on Instagram, Redman is just amazing. Just the personality is there. You just imagine that probably the best moments for Redman probably weren't on record. He's probably like on like all the time, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And he just has that sense of humor, and a lot of people just lack that, and that's a big thing for me, man. You gotta have that biting sense of humor about yourself, because it's just otherwise it's just like, why am I listening to you? You know what I mean? I'm not listening to a person. I'm listening to somebody just wearing that drag again.
That's why I like Method Man, because Method Man, as hard as he was, he had those comedic moments.
All the time, yeah.
So yeah. And I think that's what I liked about early Busta, too. Mm-hmm. Because my favorite Busta era, a lot of you not, is going to go from Leaders of the New School up until the Genesis album. Mm-hmm. I mean, I like Big Bang Theory, but once he cut the locks off, I said, all right, this is definitely a change in Busta here. And after that happened, I couldn't really get back on the train again. Right. He had certain records like "Don't Touch Me." Now he had the old school James Brown calling response to it, but it was nothing like listen to the Coming, When Disaster Strikes, ELE, and then going towards Anarchy. Actually,
ELE was my favorite, I think, of all time.
I think ELE
skits and front to back, as far as front to back rap records and skits and everything on that record is just amazing.
And then Safe No More was pretty dope too, because that's when he had like those hard hitting like Dilla beats before. Because I think next time his album came out, it might have been after Dilla passed.
Right.
So yeah, I don't think he got like the joints from Dilla. You know what I'm saying? Because the time he was sick and all that. But yeah, it's just interesting seeing how certain artists, in my mind, have like certain eras.
Right.
Then after a while, I can't dig them because you know who I used to love, but I think around the time of the cannabis feud, I wasn't really a fan of him anymore. It was LL.
Right.
Because to me, LL's first album up until first album was the Bad album up until Mama Said Knock You Out. I dug. Then he did the
14
Shots to the Dome, and I didn't like that until the Easy Mo B remix of Pink Cookies in a Plastic Bag.
Incredible remix, yes.
Great remix, and I didn't hear a sample used in such a dope way until Mobb Deep and Infamous.
Of course.
But so you had that single, Pink Cookies in a Plastic Bag. Fast forward that to these albums, it just felt like he was trying to be Mr. Smith. Well, album was called Mr. Smith, but he was trying to be like this ladies' man.
Well, that was always since I Need Love, and that.
Yeah.
Speaking of rap records that I hated, at the same time of JJ Fad, and it wasn't just. That's a big genre for me. I mean, just that's just weird, man. What you remember. But yeah, it was JJ Fad, Supersonic, and then I Need Love because it was a slow down rap, and it's kind of corny. But now I listen to it. The beat is amazing. It's an incredible recording, but the influence that it had, everybody had to have that smooth rap on their record. That one cut. When hip hop settled into that pattern, when they started making actual records, people started investing in records. Like I said, it's not really album oriented genre to me. It's always been based on singles, but record companies wanted to get most out of their artists, so you made these albums, and you had the one reggae cut, the one dance hall knockoff cut. You might have had a rock cut, and you had the slow jam cut, and there was always the worst cut on the record.
It's funny that you mention it now because I never looked at hip hop albums as being single oriented, but now that I look back.
No, this is genre in general. Just you. Everybody has that one single. Everybody has a single.
And I see it now. I mean, I look at Ja Rule's career, his albums. I feel like his career was largely single oriented. Because nobody can really tell you like, yo, man, this certain album is this, certain album is that. Like his first album, Veni Vidi Vici, is a song he has with Eric Sermon that I love. But in terms of all of his albums, I don't have those moments. Like say if I had a Sade album, which the entire album is
right
a moment, you get it, you know. But yeah, you're right. Listen back to certain albums like. I've listened to Jay-Z's Reasonable Doubt. There are certain songs that stand out more than others.
Right.
Singles based.
Yeah. 22 Twos or whatever that song is kind of just... It's a great record for me, except for that one cut.
Right.
Great Adventures of Slick Rick, considered a classic album. There's a Kid What's the Scoop. He did a Night Rider rap. It's terrible. Messes up the whole record. And this is the time when it was a record. You had records and tapes in that CD so you can skip.
Right.
And that was a big part of it. That was a big part, man. Just once you could skip songs, you would just skip. Something I Can't Explain by Nice and Smooth. They put a slow jam, off-key slow jam cover of Always and Forever at the top, at the second song of the album. Favorite records, destroys the album. I had the cassette. I had to fast forward every time, and you had to get your fast forward and rewind game. And Lord forbid you had the double-sided Walkman where the fast forward became the rewind if you weren't careful with your buttons.
Yeah.
Yo. But once you could skip CDs, it was amazing, man. Once you could make your own pause tapes off of CDs, you could delete all that filter that you didn't like. It's all about, the whole lot of stuff that people haven't unpacked about hip hop, man. And you really got to preserve and curate. You know what I mean? I think we're all culture vultures in that aspect, man. It's not even race related. To be perfectly honest, man. I personally think there's one thing I've been thinking about recently is that Black America has about as much claim to hip hop as it does to reggae. It's always been like an outsider thing to me. I like looking at the history of hip hop. These are all like first and second generation African Americans. They come from a whole different tradition than jazz and R&B and rock and roll. It's a whole different animal, man. They come from Jamaica. They come from Barbados. They're children of immigrants in New York. And like I said, New York is its own island. It's nothing like the rest of America. It's nothing like Nashville or Memphis or New Orleans, where the rest of the music came from. And hip hop is just an amalgamation of a whole bunch of different genres. It's all the best records and all the best parts of the best records. Be it disco, rock, or whatever, just these kids just picked up on it. Bambaataa just picked up on those breaks. Flash just picked up on those breaks. So, this incredible movement came out of the Bronx in New York, and it wasn't even, it's just about the Bronx. It's so crazy. It's like New York is so vast, and then Brooklyn and Queens and Uptown, and everybody just started tapping into it. It was a lot of freedom that that came from the whole culture. You know what I mean? Because I'm perfectly honest with you, Black America hated rap up until Diddy found a way to sell it to them. Talk from 1980 to 1997, that breaking point. That was a tipping point. That's Diddy's claim to hip hop, is that he sold hip hop to Black America, to the rest of Black America. We're R&B. It was R&B and soul. Generations. We just came up on it, and we all invest in this myth about hip hop, especially in the 80s. You hate 227. So you hate the TV show 227.
I hate it.
From Marlon Gibbs.
Yes.
And everybody has this 227 myth about hip hop. Like everybody loved rap in the 80s. We all hung out on the stoop with a boombox and listened to Run DMC. Everybody had a Run DMC track jacket and shell top Adidas. And hey, Bobby, why don't you run inside and get the the refrigerator box and do spin on your back? Yeah, I think I will do that. It was not the reality, man. How every family has that one cousin that shops at Hot Topic and wears the cat? Yeah. The cat ears.
Yeah, God.
Black there's one in every family. It's a black cousin that shops at Hot Topics and wears the cat ears that everybody kind of talks about behind the back.
Yep.
That's what we were in the 80s if we liked rap music. We had to fight for it. In Philadelphia, we had to fight for it. So getting back to the Power 9 at 9 countdown, that was the battlefield. It was us. We liked rap. We had to vote. We had to call into Power 99 and vote every night. We had to stand behind these records that we love. We wanted to hear the records. They weren't playing them. Okay, hip hop in Philly was Lady B on Sundays. Sunday afternoon after church. I was at my grandma's. We couldn't play it loud. My dad was downstairs watching. We all went to my grandmother's after church. After we went to White Rock. She had a beautiful brownstone, beautiful townhouse on Arch Street. And we would watch, she had Prism. She the one of the family actually had Prism. So we would watch, sports on Prism, and then turn on the radio and tune in to Lady B Sunday afternoons. Sunday afternoons and Friday, late Friday nights after everything else. It was the rap show on Power 99. You know what I mean? Then KDU was playing it. So you can only get it through, if you want a rap record, a lot of it you had to get through college radio, which addresses the race part of it. That a lot of early hip hop adapters were indeed white college students. Because they were playing the edge. College radio rejects all top 40 records. They play college records. You had the CMJ. Look at those CMJ charts. You know what I mean? My brother went to college in '86. He went to Philly Dickinson University. And he used to sneak me records from their library. They had like extra singles and stuff there. And he used to tape stuff off the radio, send it back to me. Then we had KDU here in Philly. Forget what the other rap shows. I'm really bad with radio DJs, and other than Lady B at the time and Cosmic Kev in the 90s, who still does the thing late Friday nights. Even now, it's today, man. It's I'm in LA. We have K-Day, which is like the first 24/7 rap
Legendary station.
They want to wait for back-to-back hard, and they play strictly 90s rap. And you can hear hip-hop 24 in 3 a.m. They're playing Pistol Grip Pump in 3 a.m. and I love it. It's the most exhilarating thing. Driving around listening to K-Day in LA. Get to Philly, and Power 9 still does this thing. I don't know what the format is now, but I think things kind of go quiet storm after 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay. They might do trap things. I'm not, I listen to Power 99 for the lunchtime breaks because they play the older records.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tune in and listen to trap for, half hour, and it really affects me, man. I go into a day and I'll just be like driving like, okay, I got to turn this off. This is a really visceral thing, listening to trap for like more than 20 minutes for me. It's crazy. But enough about that. So back to the 80s and us calling in the Power 99 and battling the half of the population that wanted to listen to New Edition and Ready for the World and whatever was on the radio, whatever R&B was popping right then. Mm-hmm. And calling in and requesting Queen of Rocks by Roxanne Shante or It Takes Two or Plug Tune In. It was a battle, man. And they used to put girls on the radio all the time. So you need to go on ahead with the LL Cool J. It's all about New Edition. It's all about right, Ricky and Mike. We don't want to hear that LL Cool J. You can turn that off. Used to always just build promos about that. It was crazy. It was like a battle on the radio. We had to vote to hear the records. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, we had to wait till late Friday, Sunday afternoon. Or whenever the college station. And we weren't even checking for the college station. We didn't even know. It was crazy. My brother used to go down to Poppy, which is a international magazine store, again on South Street. After the South Street Renaissance when they built Tower was the hub, and all these things were popping up on South Street. So you go to Poppy, you go to certain newsstands in Philly. They had NME and Melody Maker, which were weekly British music public. Was it weekly? Yeah, weekly or bi-weekly British music publications. And they do the top 10 list, and number one be Public Enemy. I'm like, that's amazing. I want to live in London, and I want to live in a culture where Public Enemy and Big Daddy Kane and all these records, like posting Marley Marl records I never heard of on their top 10 charts, top 10 of the week. It's crazy. You pick up the Face magazine and just be these beautiful colors. This is before the Source and before all this stuff. And the British were just mad for hip hop. Europe was mad for hip hop. Mm-hmm. And there's a whole just other branch of rap we never speak of. And it was like this wasn't generally popular. It was considered a joke. It's considered kids music. Oh, y'all like that? It's kids music. You ever watch hip hop artists on Soul Train? Questlove talks about all the time. We talk about all the time. He's Public Enemy, Eric B. and Rakim, all these. They put it on. Don Cornelius, his hatred for rap, or his not hatred or animosity, his apprehension to exposing rap artists after putting soul in R&B, and it's shocking. I understand it. The aesthetic is definitely not there. He might have considered it as less musical than what he's put on, but he's just putting on Marvin Gaye and Stevie Wonder and all these amazing acts for 10, 12, 15 years before he put on Eric B. and Rakim and Public Enemy, and it was good. Those artists, once those artists were getting exposure, Mike, let me tell you, man, it was the most exciting thing. That excitement, man. But now I look at it and I look at the crowd, and this is R&B crowd, and the mannerisms. They're overselling the hip hop enthusiasm. They're pumping their fists and they're doing, walking around the b-boy stances, and everything's exaggerated, and it seems like they were clowning the artist. You know what I mean? It seems very staged and very inauthentic. I don't know how much authenticity you're looking for from Soul Train dancers, but that's it's kind of it's kind of hard to watch, and the artists are doing pre-recorded tracks, which kind of suck too. But you're getting a record that you like, so you got that performance, and it was good as long as you ignore what's going on around the artist. You know what I mean? And you can kind of tell it was just like nobody was taking it seriously. And how could you go back to Rapper's Delight? Like I said, probably maybe the biggest 12-inch single in history of music. And it was a global phenomenon. Automatically went to Europe, went to Japan. You can find your foreign pressings of the record anywhere. Went through Europe. Got to Europe, was so popular. Well, that's one arm of it. In the United States, there was most of the early big rap records were novelty comedic records. Mm-hmm. So yeah, Rappin' Rodney Dangerfield had a rap album. You had Chevy Chase did a cover of Rapper's Delight. It was amazing. It was my favorite rap record when I was coming up.
Really?
Yeah. Chevy Chase, it sounds like a Das Effects record now. He's like just doing like a suburban, and that was a whole joke. And it's a white people doing, and it's a joke that exists to this day. Whitey does the hip hop, they call it. Everythingisterrible.com has a whole hour compilation of Whitey does the hip hop, which they just found footage of just white people rapping, and that's the joke.
Right.
So that goes back to Rapper's Delight and disco music, and everybody was doing these novelty records.
And
it's a whole genre itself. What's that?
And the Rappin' Duke.
Rappin' Duke is rapping. Okay, so yeah, rapping. John Wayne.
Yep.
There's at least 3 rapping Ronald Reagan records.
Really?
Gary Trudeau of Doonesbury, the cartoons behind Doonesbury, made one.
Oh, that's hilarious.
There's Rappin' Ronnie, and there's like another one. If you dig long enough, you'll find at least 3 rapping Ronald Reagan records. Rapping Ronald Reagan, rapping John Wayne, rapping Honeymooners, Joe Piscopo, rapping Hitler, which was Mel Brooks, and rapping Louis XIV, also Mel Brooks. It's Good to Be the King.
Wow.
It's Good to Be the King, by the way. Incredible record. It's crazy. It came out History of the World. Mel Brooks did this movie, History of the World Part 1. And the production on it is amazing. I got to research the record to find out who makes it. Then Sylvia Robinson, who owned Sugar Hill Gang, she covered that record. It's Good to Be the Queen. It's the same quality record, but it's crazy. She just kind of played off Mel Brooks, Blazing Saddles, the producers, comic legend,
right?
And he did
Young Frankenstein.
Yes,
Frankenstein, if you want to pronounce it. Yeah.
Incredible. It's a fun record. It's a good, well produced record. It's not like a cash in. It's a joke, but he put production value into it, amazingly enough. But yeah, it's like a whole genre of just novelty records. Nobody thought it was going to last. And it just kind of kept, reinventing itself. Marley Marl reinvented it. And, but, even till today, people still think it's going to, peter out any minute now. Now it's weird, though. It's like whole different animal. It's like, it's the American music. It's premier American music, you know what I mean? It dominates the charts. Nicki Minaj recently had that post about the white rapper. It's a great time to be a white rapper. Something like 5 white artists are on the rap charts at the time and everything. Which is, it's weird. But, it's where your heart is. I mean, where's the who rightfully at this point in time has a claim on it? For me, that first generation is the only person that had a legit claim on hip hop. Kool Herc, Grandmaster Flash, Bambaataa, those kids in the Bronx.
Yeah, Grandmaster Flowers, all them cats.
Yes, they had a legit claim on it. But hey, you made a beautiful thing, and then everybody wants to be part of it. You can't fault that for it. That's you. That's all on you. You know what I mean? But again, it just got to be like the drag. You know what I mean? Stop being about the music and start being about the feeling, the street cred, how they made you look, how down they made you look.
this genre has become like so big and everybody wants to be a part of it. Mm-hmm. Like I find myself not liking hip hop for that reason. Like I'm kind of picky when it comes to certain things I get involved in. Mm-hmm. If it gets too popular and too widespread, I'll pull back from it.
Right.
Because I don't want to be like everybody else. I don't like that. So me, like these days, I'm going back listening to old drum and bass records. Like it's one of the reasons why I got into Goldie as much as I did.
Right.
Because I mean, as drum and bass is worldwide, people know about it.
Right.
But everybody isn't in their bedroom trying to be the next drum and bass guy.
Right.
I mean, nobody's trying to follow after like
really weird,
Goldie or Storm and Chemistry. Nobody's trying to be the next versions of them.
It's really strange thing, man. Because you saw the Y2K, all that pre-millennium tension. Speaking of Tricky,
Right.
and that whole trip hop movement. Mm-hmm. You saw this whole future music coming out, and it's 17 years ago. All that music came out, and it's like, I don't know. Nothing really felt future. Everything went retro for a long time. The 2000s, just the sounds were like all familiar and everything. I thought it was a great time for experimentation with drum and bass and everything, especially in the 90s. Goldie and Ronnie Size, those two records there, I thought that was going to be the future of music and experimentation in music. And there's a lot of money to be had in hip hop, so it keeps going back to that. You know what I mean? It's where people just went where the money is. You know what I mean? There's really no money in experimentation, sadly.
There was a game that came out on Dreamcast. It came out in 2000, Jack Brown Radio. Mm-hmm. And to me, that game was like kind of showing me what the world was going to be like.
Right.
Not everybody rolling around rollerblades, graffiti and shit, but
right.
just in terms of the music, the culture, seeing where things could possibly go. And then I was kind of shocked, but not surprised, seeing that the world really wasn't ready to change like that.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, Japan is like that. Harajuku is like that. It's a lot like that. It's crazy. It's like it's better than that. It's like a Jack Ryan Radio is a stripped down version of what the reality in Japan is.
You saw The Promised Land, man.
I did, and and that's a big part of traveling, is experiencing new things, and then realizing, having revelations about your own thing, and just walking by a bike and unlock bike and realizing that you come from a kleptomaniacal culture that if it's not chained down, it's yours, and we're there as a culture of respect. That's someone else's property. You do not touch it. Why would you even think that? Like, there's something wrong with me. Like, I saw it and I saw, well, why hasn't anyone taken that bike? Where on the other side of things, it's just like, no. Why would you want to take someone else's property? Why would you even think that in the first place? So, out of that culture of respect, in Japanese, people talk about culture vultures, but they just invested in the culture. They respect, past traditions, just like anything else, like their own. Feudal Japan, all that stuff is well preserved, and you'll find cults. You'll find little, just cults built around. I call it a cult culture, but anything, blaxploitation, I saw it all there. B-boy culture, just a store about B-boy, store about 50s and 60s reggae and ska culture in London. People, but they lived that. So-called Harajuku girls, the shop girls in that district that dress like fly girls. Just as a Thursday afternoon, Thursday 2:00, they just dress like that, like a fly girl on Living Color. They just love that part of that time and want to express that. You know what I mean? It was like a very genuine thing. It's his own form of drag, but it was completely sincere, and I saw it there. So I went over. For you listeners, I went to this time last year, I made a pact with Scheme Richards to meet him in Japan, in Tokyo, whenever he did his month-long residency there, where he plays breaks and hip hop for he has a following over there, and I wanted to experience that firsthand. And I did hit a date that the week I was over there. I was there for 10 days, and I saw it, just the appreciation there, and the appreciation and the care that went into the club, and the system was amazing, and everything was balanced and everything. There was a lot of love just put in everything. You know what I mean? Went to a record store built around cassettes, and everything was curated, and nothing was in a broken case. Everything was in a new case. The original cassettes, the inserts, the cassettes, everything was cleaned. It looked brand new. They put in new cases and everything was shrink wrapped. They had vintage Walkmans. It's all lined up. Everything was clean. I purchased one. It plays like it was brand new, although it was 20 years old. And I'm just like, just that amount of love and care that people just put into that thing. There's nothing exploitative about it. It's the antithesis of everything that I hate. And I hate. I've grown to hate here at home. This exploitation and the idea that things are disposable. Cherish everything. It was just certain calm just came around me just seeing that, and it was just exciting, and it was just one aspect, just the music aspect, and that goes into everything. It just goes into youth culture, and you have the anime and the manga culture, and which are considered really juvenile here. You know what I mean? Or child, you're a man child if you're into those things, but it's a big respect for that culture there. You know what I mean? It's a very serious thing.
See,
it's an art form.
To me, like, I grew up on anime, like all the cartoons, like the Vampire Hunter D's, the Akiras. We're talking about the Ninja Scrolls, the Ronin Warriors, and all that. But I can't front, man. Once that cartoon series Naruto became popular, and I started going down where the Art Institute is at, because it used to be a Tower Records there. It became FYE.
Yeah.
I would see these kids wearing the Naruto headbands and
the first time I saw a Naruto headband, I remember that day. That's how confused I was. I remember that moment. I saw a kid with a Naruto headband. I'm just trying to comprehend what is that? What are you? And he wasn't wearing it as a headband. That might have been a big part of it. So it was just but yeah, you know what I mean. It's just you see it. For my brother, it was when NXS blew up. The Devil Inside, when the Kick album came out for NXS, in the 80s, was a group called NXS. Need You Tonight is a big song, and that was on an album called Kick. And they were kind of like an indie. They had some pop success there. But it had this album called Kick, and it was the biggest record in 1987, I think. And my brother goes to the show at the Spectrum, and it's just a bunch of kids that weren't there a year before, and it said it's kind of spoiled it for him. But at the band was there. You know what I mean? They killed it. So it just I don't know, man. And I just relate to so much of that now. You know what I mean? But I don't know, man. Yeah, it all started for me with that myth. I mean, well, that didn't start with the myth. I look at how people consider hip hop they were down from day one. You know what I mean? And it was a very hated, very shunned, outcast type of thing back in the 80s. You had hits. People liked them. It was fun, but it was like a novelty thing. You know what I mean? Okay, let's go back to R&B. That was fun. Let's go back to R&B. And it's fun. It's not going to last. Let's go back to this R&B stuff. You know what I mean? And then everything it's crazy, and it's being in Philadelphia, and there's a lot of pride for me, and it's really gone unexplored. But Girls Ain't Nothing But Trouble,
Fresh Prince,
Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince, and PSK, and the influence of those records, and how different they are. PSK is, Schoolie D's kind of like, hip hop was about, flipping TV theme songs and having fun and goofy. And I did, this story about this girl that happened the other day. PSK is a really dark story. It's like a Donald Goines book.
Parkside Killers, for those who don't know.
Yeah, they came from down the block.
Yes.
Down the block from Winfield is, Parkside Avenue. And the Parkside District was like like night and day. And it's literally the other side of the tracks from Winfield. And this brilliant, local artist, Schoolie D, and he had this amazing, I'll never forget, there was a corner store down there. And he recreated the Funkadelic cover on the front of it. And it was there for days. It was like a landmark for us. This painting that he did at this corner store, and when they tore it down, it sucked. And for years, I didn't know it was him that did that. It was Schoolie. I call him Mr. Weaver out of respect when I see him. Mm-hmm. Probably my favorite Philadelphian, my favorite living Philadelphian. But he did his record PSK, and it's considered the first gangster record of all time. And
Gucci Time,
and it was a rap circuit back in the day. It was a very underground thing. It was like the Chitlin circuit. And this record hit, and it was all about Houdini, Run DMC, the Fat Boys maybe, and Grandmaster Flash before that. So there was an infrastructure there, and there were clubs and DJs in each city that played it, on little tiny record, radio stations. But again, very underground thing. So PSK blew up, and you start hearing this cadence, you start hearing this sound. You hear it in Boys in the Hood. You hear it in 6 in the morning.
Ice-T, yeah.
Particularly in 6 in the morning. And there's a story about Schoolie going down to Miami back in the day and meeting with Luke Skywalker. And Luke said, "Yeah, man, they're bootlegging your record." He's like, "What?" Yeah, he went to a record store and there were like PSK people just bootlegging PSK. He just loved it so much. It's kind of like, before things went viral, they just kind of got gained in popularity in these underground venues. So, that record, and again, going back to Melody Maker and NME magazines in the UK, Schoolie D records, Schoolie D charting, articles about them. You had to import the culture to America. That's how crazy it was back in the day. That's how shunned it was. Not necessarily by white America. There's a lot of white Americans, and especially college students, adapted it. Mm-hmm. But it was shunned by just so much culture. I mean, by just American culture, that the real stuff you had to read, and me and my brother had to read imported magazines to find out about it. It was crazy. I remember when Scholar Rock was killed. I found out a month later in Spin magazine. It probably mentioned it on rap radio. If you weren't taping religiously, you missed out on a lot.
See, now you'll find out via Twitter as soon as it happens.
As soon as it happens, exactly. As it's happening, you find out. A month went by. The next edition of Spin magazine, I'll never forget, man. Scholar Rock dead. I was like, my goodness.
That was 87, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. 87, very early 88. Yeah,
that was a crazy story how that happened. But it's amazing. Now, let's get to a topic that I want to talk about.
Sure.
Now, we talked about the magazine, Spin magazine, right?
Yeah.
Journalism.
Yeah.
Hip-hop journalism.
Yeah.
Now, in this era now, because the reason why I want to talk about it so bad right now is because I'm seeing how you had writers, like Nelson George, for example.
Nelson George is
it's like one of the preeminent hip hop journalists ever, because he was covering everything from the Village Voice and all the other NY publications.
Well, Billboard, he started in 79, 80, so he was just covering black music in general.
Yeah, in general. Yeah.
But he was there, he saw the whole evolution of things. Yeah,
right. So
definitely.
Yeah, people like him going down to people like Elliot Wilson, XXL, and all that. So all these different people who were writing in between to now.
Yeah.
You have Twitter, you have Instagram, and you have these people who create these YouTube channels,
Mm-hmm.
and are now gained a bunch of popularity, and now are call themselves
Like Vlad and
academics and people like that,
Oh, Lord.
and they're like, we're hip hop journalists. It's hip hop journalism right now at its finest, and I disagree. Like listen. Every time I hear them say, "Oh, we're hip hop journalists," I'm like, it's a difference between actually covering the culture rather than you just like finding people to exploit or finding stories to exploit.
Right.
But that's not hip hop journalism.
Before you hear about journalists, you have to be a great journalist, period. And
Right.
again, it's the drag, man. It's people wearing that hip hop drag. They want to be down. They want to be the knock. They want to be the source of all these things.
Yeah.
And everybody has a voice in it. That's the thing. There's along with the elimination of the bar, the selling of the bar, everybody has a voice in hip hop now. There's no. It kind of like, I don't know. For me, it's a weird thing to say, but there's upside to fascism. Things got really democratic with the digital age. You know what I mean? Everybody had access. Everybody had access to it. Everybody had access to the music, and everybody has their own opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody has access to a medium where they can give their opinion on stuff. Whereas in the 70s, it was a New Yorker.
Mm-hmm.
It was Melly Mel. It was a DJ. It was Mr. Magic. It was a dictatorship, kinda. You know what I mean? The crowds, you put records up, and that DJ, that radio DJ, Red Alert, Mr. Magic, Lady B, and Lady B, not so much. She was a champion of this rap record. She just wanted. It's a really vibrant culture, and she wanted us to be, listen to it. Listen to it. This is a great record. I think it deserves exposure.
She's an unsung hero too in the city.
Absolutely.
And I know recently I saw that she wasn't on 103, 100 the beat anymore.
Yeah, that's a big thing going down right now, where she's no longer.
Yeah, on the radio, and I'm just, I don't understand that considering how.
Well, there's been patches where she haven't been on the radio now, but yeah, there's a big void now.
Yeah, because she was like one of the last.
They switch formats.
Supporters,
you know what I mean? So I guess they're just going where the money is. That's the reality of it. She'll always have love in Philly. Somebody will, if she has to come here and play records on that turntable there in front of you, we could do that. You know what I mean? But yeah, man, it's like it was a very fascist thing, I think, back in the day. You just had the brothers in New York, and if you want to get in, you couldn't. And if you try to get in, you get beat down. You know what I mean? And
you had to earn your stripes.
You had to be great. You had to earn your stripes, and it was a very, often brutal thing. Again, the stories about the LQ are, legendary. But that's where you had to get down. And that's why it's the golden age for me, I think. Because Marley nailed down his production. He was an incredible producer. And the artists that were coming up in that time were performing to the toughest critics, New York public, knuckleheads, the thugs, and just the true music lovers. You know what I mean? You would get booed off the stage. So back to your question. The journalism. It's like everybody has a say now, and it's like big deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
like Nelson George for me was always. And I've been reading him since I really got into reading about music, which is probably like 86, 87, 88. For whatever column he had, and then Dream Hampton, and the vibe, revolution of vibe in the 90s. And Elliot Wilson in the early days of The Source. Again, a very because Word Up and Word Up magazine was the hip hop version of Right On, which covers soul and R&B for kids, but it was a pulp. Those are pulp publications. They're mostly all the articles there were filler to fill out the posters that they posted, trying to create these heartthrobs and everything. But again, word up. If you can find it, they're incredibly hard to find now, and they're incredible. Just documents about the culture at the time, 87, 88. Those photos are amazing.
Biggie referenced it in the Juicy.
Yeah,
magazine on the
yeah,
wall,
that was the big reference in Juicy, and still I have Darlene and Ice T and Biz Markie and Cool V. It's a double-sided poster that I always had in my room.
That's the only reason why I bought that Ice T album.
Mm-hmm.
Because of Darlene Ortiz.
Well, yeah.
That's the only reason.
That was
why.
a big marketing tool, yeah.
Yep, and I bought it.
Yeah, we found the poster yesterday in the dig. Me and Max from Brewery Town Beach, shout out.
Damn it.
Not a plug.
Shout out to Brewery Town Beach, though.
But yeah, we found that poster. Amazing.
Mm.
She was the pinup girl for Hollywood Records. So she worked for Disney. She was a Disney, Hollywood Basic was Disney's hip-hop label briefly in the early 90s.
Because they also signed, they were the label that had Peanut Butter Wolf and Charisma signed to them.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Zimbabwe Legit, a bunch of, Organized Confusion was one of the first signees.
A word.
But, yeah, so, Pharoah Monch for people.
Prince Poe, yep.
No, yeah. But, yeah, again, back to your question, though. Yeah, it's just not even just the journalism. It's that everybody has a say. You can just stream it. Everybody has access. You get all the rap you want. You get every rap. Most of the rap records. I'm a nerd, so there's a ton of records that I can't find.
Mm.
This is why I still dig for records. But everybody has access, and it's just big deal. It used to be the most exciting thing in the world, man. 12 years ago, this season. So the Fat Boys were kind of the first rap group to get a national endorsement, and they had a Swatch Watch commercial. They had two Swatch Watch commercials. Swatch was a huge company in the 80s that made these plastic, colorful watches, and you can buy like 3 and 4 at a time. You rock them on your wrist. And the Fat Boys producer happened to be Swiss, and he got this a huge deal for them, and they had 2 Swatch commercials, and you couldn't DVR anything, and the VCR was only for certain shows. So you saw that commercial. That commercial came on, Mike. 1984fly.com podcast. Waterice.com. Let me tell you, it was the most exciting. I jumped out of the seat. I remember it was like amazing thing. Did you see that? Oh my God, that was crazy. And it was like Buffy and the human beatbox Buffy and Cool Rock and the light skin one. Terrible. It's running around selling swatches. It was like the most, because we just didn't have that exposure, man. You know what I mean? You had the record, you had Word Up magazine, and that was about it. So to see them on TV, anything hip hop related, you were just recording, and if you knew what was coming on, which you didn't. And this was like up until that tipping point, I think, 97. So, and now it's just, another thing to me. It's everywhere. So we're exposed, everybody's talking about it, it's talking about it to death. And we have these arguments, and I'm like, what are you arguing about it? It's not, as far as I'm concerned, its best days are behind us, and, you disposing of the best parts of it, I think. I understand why you like what you like. Mm-hmm. And it makes perfect sense, but you gotta understand that there's a whole history there that you're kind of disposing of. I don't think Black history or Black culture should ever be disposable, and that's just an ongoing trend.
Right.
We parted ways with jazz. People got bored with jazz. For the most part, that was our music, and then Dave Brubeck stepped in. I'm like, and he got a lot of criticism. He was a cultural vulture of his day. Did one of the biggest selling jazz records of the 50s, and just wasn't it. But, we kind of lost our say there.
Was he the one who had the album cover with a woman covering like what was she covering? Whipped cream?
No, that was Herb Alpert.
Herb Alpert, okay, cool. Right,
so yeah. Herb Alpert, again, founded A&M Records, and he was doing Latin jazz, Latin like Mexican jazz. He did the dating game theme and all that stuff. But yeah, Brubeck was like a modern. It was a more of a modern art cover and huge record, Take Five, and we were just kind of like getting out of it. We had gone to rock and roll and then to Motown. It wasn't even rock and roll. It turned to R&B. And it's just another marketing tool. It's like hip hop is just a name. It doesn't mean anything anymore. You know what I mean? It's kind of like rock and roll is just marketing R&B to white audiences. You know what I mean? You did a R&B show in Cleveland, and a bunch of black folks come up and they panicked. So, okay, it's going to be called rock and roll instead for the white audiences, and then black audiences didn't show up. Everything was just marketing and the whole racial aspect to it. It's our complicated history, but it keeps popping up. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, we just keep moving on. I don't know how much, you can fight for it, but, what's the use? I mean, beautiful thing about recording music is record it. So you can always review it at your own discretion and with your own time. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You don't like trap, you can turn it off and go back into your own stream. You know what I mean? Have something like 3 weeks worth of hip hop or something in my iTunes that I can go to. I have 180 CDs under my bed right now. Damn. That I can go to. Mm-hmm. So I mean, you can critique it, and it's definitely worth fighting for. But I just see the same trends going on, and I grew up in the disco era. I was a disco. My birth record was George McRae, I think, and Rock Your Baby. It was considered the first disco record. It's number one record when I was born in 1974 and child of disco era. So when I'm 6 years old, and I'm listening to Kool and Gang, mm-hmm. and Earth, Wind and Fire, and I know what those sounds like. Let's Groove Tonight, and just really these big, full, sleek productions, full, rich productions. And then I'm in college, 12 years after that, and I'm listening to, hey, wait a minute, they had records in the early 70s. Mm-hmm. And they were like incredible Afrocentric grooves and just really heavy funk, and the production was, it was low budget. Mm-hmm. They were just amazing. So why, amazing production is. So why nobody ever played these records? So is that all that the aspirational aspect mm-hmm. to black culture? Like we're constantly climbing out of this tunnel. We're constantly being refined as artists, as people. So, so you grew up in the Chinese street era.
Definitely do.
You had to do some hardcore research to find out a lot about the artists that, that came out before that. You know what I mean?
Indeed.
So it just kind of like things always skew hedonistic mm-hmm. and aspirational. So, we just kind of want better up to a point. Then a weird thing happened.
Right.
And after, maybe 15 years ago, where the more hood, that street cred kind of took over. Mm-hmm. And, now the aspirational aspect of things is kind of like bougie. You want to be more thugged out. You want to be more hardcore. Right. It's a really, really weird thing, man, that just kind of just happened. And I'd never seen it before, you know what I mean? People always wanted to seem down, but a refined version of down, you know what I mean? It's like I'm at the club, but I'm drinking champagne. I'm not drinking a 40.
Cristal popping, the Versace out here.
I'm not drinking a 40 like, those Dapper Dan cats. Where I'm really rocking a genuine Gucci thing, not a Gucci bag cut into a suit. You know what I mean?
Right.
Another, just interesting thing that's just kind of happening there. So yeah, it's not, anything, nothing new under the sun. It just happened to everything else. You know what I mean? Another big aspect of it is the Sammy Davis Jr. Aspect. It's something that my dad put me up on.
Okay.
So back in the 60s, 50s, say from the 40s and 50s up to the 60s, Sammy Davis Jr. is the most electrifying, by far, performer. You can sing, dance, everything, act. Most incredible performer, most electric person in American culture. Starts hanging with the Rat Pack. Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra and,
Joey Bishop.
Bishop.
What's the fourth guy? The British cat who married into the Kennedys.
Exactly.
Oh, God. And I know his name, but...
Did the Google?
Yeah, I got Google now. That happens, man.
But anyway, he starts hanging out with those cats. He's part of the what is it called? The Rat Pack. And Black America's like, what are you doing?
Might even look it up, but I got a name. It's Peter Lawford.
Peter Lawford. Very good.
Didn't even need Google to stop.
Excellent. Villanova, ladies and gentlemen.
Let's do it.
Send your kids out the main line for that education. Yes. Pull that Peter Lawford out.
That's right. Didn't even need Google.
So, Sammy Davis Jr. starts hanging out with those cats in Vegas. And starts performing for their audiences. And, and they're watching. You know what I mean? His audience are watching. These performers are watching every move that he's doing. It's like, what are you doing, man? You're giving away our secrets. So Sammy got a lot of flack back in the day for that. It's like you're giving it away to them, man. This is all we have. Mm-hmm. And you're just kind of like selling it, to them. If they pick up on it, if they learn your tricks and how you're dancing, it's a wrap for us. They don't need us anymore. Huge thing. So we've kind of been carrying that whole, they've been carrying Sammy Davis Jr. on our backs ever since that. You know what I mean? Just kind of keep it in your pocket, man. But at the same time, that money in.
Yeah, he was getting paid at zeros, man.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you got to sell it. You want to make this money we're selling it. Sorry. So you can still call it selling out or whatever. And there was a huge no sellout movement, which was more political. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to stay true to the game, and I'm not going to be corporate, and I'm not going to alter the way I dress or talk, for America. But, and it was selling out in the hip hop sense as far as, I'm not going to go pop, but at the same time, it was a very sketchy thing, man. So you go back to and my favorite era of music, of course, is not the 80s or the 90s hip hop. It was the cusp between the two.
Okay.
89, 90, 91.
Good era.
Incredible era.
Yes, indeed.
The basic cable era for me is what I call it, because, again, going back to Girls Ain't Nothing But Trouble, a Philly rap record. It was great music. It was a solid record. It wasn't the best, best. It was Will it was a better Will. Jazzy wasn't doing a heck of a lot on the record, as we knew him. But they put that record out. MTV showed it. And it was a minor hit, you know what I mean? And might see something else in it, you know what I mean? They weren't playing rap records. They were playing them, but very sporadically. So there was no Yo MTV raps. Young intern by the name of Ted Demme, nephew of Philly director Jonathan Demme, who directed Philadelphia. Both have passed since. But yeah, Ted Demme, young intern at MTV, he was a pest to his, whoever is running his program, whoever he answered to as an intern. He's a pest. Just drops constantly, talking to them, and I think this would be a great idea if you did a block of rap videos. Just constantly, just do it. He's constantly pushing it. It's a total pest. Passing notes under the urinals and stuff. You know what I mean? In the bathroom, constantly. It's like, all right, you might have something there. That Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince video did all right. Put on your MTV Raps is almost instantly the biggest thing. An hour, 2 hours every Saturday, an hour in the morning, and a repeat at night. Hosted by Fab Five Freddy, who in itself was the first one to kind of herald. He was that hip hop herald that went to the South Bronx and went to downtown, went to Soho, and went overseas with Celluloid Records and told the world that this is a vibrant thing. You guys need this vibrant thing going on uptown New York. You need to know about it. So here he is again in a broadcasting sense on the air and the radio waves, on the TV waves. And going through your cable box, through the cable to your TV, and just directly telling you about all these amazing artists that are coming out. And there was rap on BET. Not everybody had BET. The infrastructure was just still building. We didn't get cable in general till the late '80s. You know what I mean? So you had that one. My grandma had Prism, so she was the first one to get BET and MTV in the family. And I would go up to that back room where I would listen to Lady B a few years before on Sunday afternoons after church. Mm-hmm. And luckily, if I was lucky to stay there over the weekend, I would just plop down we had a Pampazan chair. There was a stool. I sat on that stool and I sat in front of that TV. And you would turn the TV on, it would just be a flood. You'd be at that hour, get that hour every Saturday. And then eventually, over the next couple years, you would get, 2 hours of Rap City. And then you'd get Showtime at the Apollo's, rap there. Doing more raps on Soul Train. We talked about that earlier. Same
weird rap performances.
Same reception, but new artists nonetheless. Then you had the Box, which is like music, television, you control.
Channel 65,
which
man.
Came out of Florida, I believe. It was 24/7, and it was a democratic thing, just like the Power 99 countdown. You would call in, and nobody really called in. It turns out that the record companies were calling in and ordering a lot of just to keep it on because they needed to show something. They couldn't show the menu 24 hours a day in between videos. Mm-hmm. So record companies, we trying to push this record, so we're going to, and it goes back to the payola thing, kind of. They kind of like rigged the game so you would see the radios all the time. And just a flood of just this culture and the diversity of the artists was amazing. So you had local kids, just as diverse as Schoolie and Will. Will
Fresco Miz was out there.
Clean cut Overbrook kid, mm-hmm. and goofy teenager doing this, that, and the third. I don't know the reality of that. That might just been him on records.
Right.
That's another question with Scheme Richard. So you got to have on the show soon.
I'm trying to catch Scheme.
Yeah. And then, and not 2 miles away, Schoolie D doing his thug thing. Mm-hmm. It was two diverse things. They live in the same city. They were not making the same music. You're not getting that today.
Right.
Unfortunately. You could get a conscious rapper, a live rapper. They do exist. There is a circle. There are these circles, but they're not getting that exposure anymore.
A quick version here. So about Philly rappers.
Sure.
Make a confession. So all over the net, mm-hmm. all over Twitter, mm-hmm. Black Thought's recent freestyle on Phone Flex made waves, right?
Sure.
People are like, oh man, Black Thought's that dude.
Yes.
Confession. I have yet to see the freestyle. And you're probably saying why I didn't see the freestyle yet. I'll tell you. Because I got tired of everybody just talking about it. Because it was everywhere. Like, on my Facebook timeline, it was everywhere. On Twitter, it was everywhere. Instagram. I'm like, listen, I need for this whole hype to die down. And I'll play it on a random Tuesday. I'm like, okay. That's what they were talking about. But just the whole flux of just everybody, oh my God, look at this freestyle. I'm like, I know Black Thought is nice, yo. Just like everybody was so damn surprised by what he did. I'm like, this is what he usually does.
It's like I posted, this is him on a Tuesday morning before his day job.
Yes.
9 to 5 at Jimmy Fallon.
That was it. And again, this isn't hate or like coming off like I'm, dissing him. But it's just that reason why I didn't listen to freestyle or got to it because everybody's so damn shocked. Oh my God. I'm like, yo, this is what he does. This is what he does. What you expect? So when I watch it, I'll see what I expected.
I don't know. And everybody was talking about it. And that kind of irked me. I'm glad he's got the exposure.
Yeah, me too.
But the people that were exposing it were talking about Cardi B's dress 2 weeks before that. That was the topic. Cardi B wore this to this thing. Cardi B, showed up.
Mm-hmm.
Cardi B in a photo of Beyonce like this, some kind of. Beyonce knows who Cardi B is. Isn't that great? I'm like, I don't know.
One of my favorite, the comedian Tiffany Haddish was like, I introduced Barbara Streisand to Cardi B, and that was like all over Instagram and Twitter. I'm like, listen, that's cool.
Yeah, Barbara Streisand knows about her.
Cardi B, I'm like, what is this? But again, back to this point about the Black Thought freestyle.
It was actually about music. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It was an exciting thing, and I watched it probably 8 times in its entirety. It's 10 minutes. It's a solid 10 minutes, and he talks about a lot, and it's very eloquent.
Of course, because like this is Black Thought. Like this is Tariq here. This is Rick G's.
We know it.
Yeah, but the world doesn't know it.
But I don't want to be that guy. Like, well, I've always been on top of it. But I'm glad you know.
Yeah.
But we've been saying it. This is visual proof, provided by Funkmaster Flex, no less.
Right.
Who nobody seems to like.
I used to be a fan of him, man, but I feel like he just started getting caught up in like gimmicks and stuff. I guess he does that for people listening.
It's an amazing thing to be like still on the radio from the time of the tunnel. I mean, when hip hop will chew you up and spit you out really pretty quick. He's still an authority. You know what I mean?
Still Hot 97.
Still bringing us things like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and that cusp, and if you listen to, for me, so I was talking about Basic Cable, and that flood of just artists, and you just the diversity of artists, and you had all the native tongues,
mm-hmm.
and people think it was just the b-boys and the native tongues, and that was it. But it was just a full spectrum of just artist music was coming from everywhere, and a lot of it was bad music.
Yeah.
There was a lot of bad music came back during that cusp. During my favorite era, a lot of bugged out music was coming out. A lot of knockoff music, a lot of fake De La Soul came out. But overall, it was just a very exciting thing. You didn't know what was coming next. Really didn't. And, a song that It Takes Two would, get played to death. OPP would get played to death. And that's where an underground rap kind of, you could see it evolving. That was also exciting. So you had popular rap, more mainstream rap in itself, you know what I mean? Where hip hop in general was just the outcast thing. You had an outcast part of the outcast. It was getting subdivided into, there was popular rap, and there was underground rap, whereas all rap was underground at one point. So, just that cusp, and at the best for me, the best hip hop at its best has always been not one artist, not one album, not the clothes or the fashion or behind it. It's always come down to Red Alert. Red Alert show on 98.7 Kiss FM, especially during the cusp, which is 89, 90, 91. You get, and people have, there's tapes available online and stuff. And for me, Red Alert was the best because he played everything. He played the best records. He wasn't regionally influenced.
Mm-hmm.
He was playing NWA. He was playing bass, Miami bass late in his sets. He just didn't play bad records. It didn't matter where it came from. He was playing the best records. And it was like, I don't know, it's just like when he was on the air, my brother would tape, my father and my brother, my dad took a job at Harlem Hospital, and he was commuting between New York and Philly. It was an amazing time for him. And my brother was living with him. He had graduated from Fairleigh Dickinson, and he would we'd go up to visit, me and my mom would go up to visit on weekends. And the family would be together, and I would just tap into Red Alert on 98.7 on the weekends. It'd be like, I think it was a Friday show and a Saturday show. Saturday might have been a replay of Friday. But it was just electric, and it wasn't just about the records. He didn't play records for 90 minutes. It was about the drops. The drops were all funny. The on-air report was funny. He had all these go-to jokes about the poo-poo juice and Riddler ain't at your radio ain't really on, and the promos. This is whoever. This is Redman, and when I'm not doing this, that, and the third, I'm listening to Red Alert on 98.7. Then there was Rob Alert, his son, who had his little kid that had his crazy high speechy voice, who did all these drops that were just insane, man.
Rob Alert.
I think his name was Rob Alert. His Red Alert's son, whatever his son's name was. It was just like this amazing electric thing. It just felt like the city. It really added to the city.
Mm-hmm.
You felt like the city was alive when he was on. And I know he came after Mr. Magic, and Pete Rock and Marley Marl had a show up the dial, and Chuck Chillout, another great New York radio DJ. And it was just like all the records were coming out, and then I got to college and things were getting you could really see things getting subdivided, and West Coast had its own sound. I went to school in the Midwest, so I was on that side of the Mississippi, so everything was skewed gangster, especially in the 90s. I was one of few, I think it was like me and another black kid from Philly,
mm-hmm.
and the bulk of the black student there were some from Iowa, and a lot of them from Chicago. So it was on campus. It was all about Bone Thugs. When Bone Thugs hit, it was a rap for everything, and I hated the record. And I retreated to my room and played Redman and Wu-Tang, and luckily, RZA was on his 5-year plan run, which was like amazing time to be there. And just going to school in the Midwest was weird because I was not in the element here on the East Coast.
Okay.
I was not in the element on the West Coast, so. And, cable was a luxury then, you know what I mean? So it was strictly those Tuesday trips to Co-op Records in town. Never went to Musicland. I still kept it underground when I could. And I didn't go to the mainstream unless I really needed to.
Right.
So Co-op was a franchise in Ames, Iowa. I went to Iowa State University. And I was in and out of school between 92 and 98. I was here. They were back here a couple times. Tuesdays ruled it. I'd go out and I'd see what was out. And, at the time, even when I was in high school, middle school, there was a whole economics to hip-hop.
Mm-hmm.
So CDs were just reintroduced. I got my first CD player in, I think, 89. At Christmas, and I got the Diabolical Biz Marquee, or the Biz Never Sleeps, was the first rap CD I got. So CDs were what, $12.99, $13.99.
Mm-hmm.
Cassettes were $8.99 to $9.99, and the few artists that I did love, they got CD love. Then. If I wasn't sure about an artist, I get the cassette. If I still wanted the music, I get the cassette. Like, I like the single. I don't know about the whole album.
Mm.
I bought the cassette. It was a $3-4 difference, but it was a big difference.
Especially back then.
And I lost a lot of those gambles. Like, I have Reasonable Doubt on cassette. And I said, damn, I wish I had the CD.
Mm.
You know what I mean? It's actually a better album than I thought it would be. But I had my Walkman. It was just more about portability. The CDs never really carried well for me. You know what I mean?
Right.
And if you lost a CD, that was a big loss. So, it was those economics, and, it was Tuesdays where my money went. That's where my money went. I still have most of that collection. I lost a lot of CDs in college, but Tuesdays. It was about Tuesdays. It was about my subscription to The Source.
Mm-hmm.
And then to Vibe, when Vibe dropped, which was, you know, more black music in general. Hip hop was a big part of it, but, you know, it was a lot of R&B. He had TLC covers. He had Shantae Moore, all that stuff, and you know. But you know, it helped me through. And I never really got back to those British magazines because, you know, no, this is for us. This is an American thing. It was easier to get.
Right.
Boy, and you know, even when Ego Trip and On the Run and all these, you know, rap pages came along in the '90s, you know, later on in the '90s, those were luxuries. You know, I remember making trips to like Des Moines, like getting hyped to go to Des Moines, Iowa, just 30 miles south of Ames.
Mm-hmm.
Get hyped to go to Des Moines because the big mall was there. They had 3 big malls, and it was a Best Buy there, and they had Borders and Barnes and Noble, I think, if we were lucky.
You living.
Yeah, so if you got, you know, if you happen to find that issue of Ego Trip, it was golden. It's pure gold. You find On The Go magazine, which is a Philly-based graffiti. I shout out to Ari and Espo, and golden again. And I have very few of those, but I have every source that came out in the '90s and every vibe. So my whole experience there was just filtered. It was strictly anticipating those records. And and for me, everything is about balance, you know what I mean? And the best thing about that cusp, 89, 90, 91, was there was an infrastructure there, but it was still kind of shady. Nobody was really kind of hip to the hip hop game. Nobody was really calling shots. Anything could happen, you know, anything could have been upsurged from month to month.
Right.
This producer could make, you know, the best thing, and he can make garbage the next album. It was like so unstable, unpredictable. It was an amazing time to be alive, dude. And then, you know, to the late '90s, things kind of solidified.
Right.
And, you know, that drag got stronger. That sense of drag, people putting the drag on, got stronger. And so even, you know, a lot of great music just went untouched, unplayed. It wasn't even an underground thing. It was like, you know, kind of like, you know, just regular, accessible music, hip hop as we knew it, but it wasn't that aspirational. It wasn't the shiny suit stuff. And people thought it was like hating, but it was like, you know, it was criticism, you know what I mean? There was like some legit criticism to what Puffy was doing, you know what I mean? And as much as you love $8 E, it was just like his delivery was, I don't know, I was always taken aback by it. It was always cringing. I would always cringe at his delivery, to be perfectly honest. So yeah, it was, and my whole hip hop experience in the '90s was just filtered. It was strictly music, and strictly the source, and strictly the vibe, which were those elements were kind of, the machine was kind of forming.
Mm-hmm.
So the record industry had kind of captured the hip hop zeitgeist, you know what I mean? And things were just solidifying. It was hard to catch at some point, you know what I mean? It was artists were very resistant to, you know, to the big labels. You know, it was always about the local labels. And the other great thing about that time is you had your local moguls. So, you know, Luke was Florida, you know what I mean? Every city had like that figure behind it. So Luke was Florida. You had Jermaine Dupri in Atlanta. You had you know, Rap A Lot in Houston, rap huge.
Jay Prince.
Yeah. You know, you had Ruthless and Profile in L.A. So Mix-a-Lot had Swas in the Bay Area. It was, you know, owned by E40 and, you know, Hammer. Even Hammer's first album was, in that streamer thing, wasn't the best thing to me. It was kind of weird, you know what I mean? He was rocking the espadrille sandals with no socks and the funny baggy pants, but, you know, it was still kind of exciting. You know, it wasn't boring. Hammer was never boring. Hammer got, you know, Hammer was never, you know, as much as people As much as horrible as Vanilla Ice was, he was never.
God.
You know, there was always some entertainment value to what he was doing just because it was so whack. You know what I mean?
I can't front because when I was a kid, like mind you, like 89, 90, when Hammer came out, it was big. So, but naturally, if you hear him on the radio,
Yeah.
and you hear him on the damn Addams Family soundtrack,
Yeah.
and then he does Too Legit to Quit with James Brown in the video, you're like, oh shit, this is big time.
It was about the spectacle and just the music wasn't.
But the funny thing about Hammer is that it was only about the singles with Hammer.
Right.
We like my parents didn't own a single, they didn't own no Hammer albums. That was not what they were doing.
Right.
But if I heard on the radio, I only knew Hammer by what I heard singles wise.
Right.
That was it. And same thing with Oaktown 357. Like,
oh my goodness.
because it was single. That was
Right.
it. But album wise, I know nothing about it.
Yeah, by the way. Oaktown 357. Something about that song. He had a sound. They had a sound. Buster Records had a sound early on. Then it got really smooth and it was mainstream. And he did Kentucky Fried Chicken commercial and Hammerman and the whole phenomenon. And then, it seemed unstoppable. And then it stopped.
He was
money dried up.
one of the first, like, I won't say one of the first rappers, but I guess he was one of the first rappers to, like, be, like, religious. With it. We got
Yeah,
to
he did
pray
a gospel record off a Prince sample.
just to make it today. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Dancing with, like, sockless loafers and shit. Just.
And forget what you know about Afrocentrism. He was the blackest rapper. He did a gospel record off a Prince sample.
He did.
He was the black man. He was the black mainstream.
Off of When Doves Cry.
Yeah.
My God.
In that sense, not Afrocentric black, but mainstream. Ebony Jet. Black, yes. Black.
Okay, I got what you're saying.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. He was, yeah.
Gospel, yeah. The gospel tradition.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. It was crazy.
Even, I feel like a lot of his songs had, like, gospel, like, roots in, like, that song, Gonna Turn This Mother Out. That chord progression, that was all, like...
Actually, I mean, I learned about the production behind it. It's very interesting story about how those records were produced. But yeah, some industry veterans were behind Hammer, and that first record, it was just part of that stream. It was just a facet of what was going on there. It was coming from all over the country, and oh my God, low profile. Just fell in love with just West Coast rap from the beginning, even before NWA. Low Profile and King T. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't all about, gangster rap. It was, you had the Alcoholics and the Far Side. And
love the Far Side.
Made incredible records. One of my favorite catalogs is the Alcoholics catalog. There's so many solid singles there. Especially the singles. Hieroglyphics. So much great music that wasn't
Oakland Blackouts,
gangster rap that you bring it up and people kind of fuzzy about it. You know what I mean? But they know 93.2 Infinity and they know Passing Me By.
That can be an entirely different podcast too. It's like the two sides of LA in the '90s.
Oh yeah, definitely. Still,
yeah, even to this very
still
day.
A very diverse sound, but people like that. People want to appear to be down. They were fascinated by that whole gangster side of things.
Yeah.
Not about music. Not necessarily about music. And then G-Funk hit, and a lot of G-Funk records came out. Some people were just trying to make Warren G records after that. And that's how that sound kind of petered out. You know what I mean?
I'm a big Quick fan.
Quick is an amazing... Just forget rap records. He's just an amazing musical producer.
You win!